We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the North City Council Finance Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to tonight's meetings. If you haven't been to council committee meetings before, you'll see some Finance Committee meets first, and then you'll see safety, personnel, service, capital improvements, and then economic development, and then capital improvements. So 6 committees will be meeting tonight, and so between each one you'll see some shifting of members of City Council. And I actually, considering the number of people that are in attendance tonight, if members of council want to sit in their regular seats so that maybe we can give some of our audience members a place to seat, feel free to do so, seeing that we're pretty packed tonight. But I want to welcome you to tonight's meetings. Finance Committee does have 3 pieces of legislation to consider. Our first piece of legislation is to consider resolution number 1524, appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation with regard to the retention of outside legal counsel. And I see Director Rhodes and Director Buskirk are at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We need to move $10,000 into professional services for outside legal counsel. These dollars are being appropriated out of money that we received into the general fund from the proceeds of the impound lot sale.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Broad.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Floyd. Is there a reason why we're getting the legal counsel?
Well, it's called professional services. Part of it's legal counsel, part of it we're required by contract to maintain lists for new hires into police and fire, as well as promotions and those sort of things. And those lists have expired and need to be redone. We weren't planning on having to do them this year, but with the few hirings we did and the number that we ended up skipping over, we're going to have to redo some of those.
The list, I'm sorry, Director Busker.
The Ohio Revised Code speaks to the list. If you're interested in becoming a fireman, you go take 2 different tests, and then based on your score, we have a list. You have to score 70 or higher to be eligible, and then we go right down the list when we go to hire somebody. Once the list expires, we have to have another list put up. So we got to redo that testing.
So the majority of this would go to that type of work then?
Not the majority, no. I mean, we also have arbitrations and things of that nature that we have to pay for. So I wouldn't say the majority was going for the testing, but it's more than just for legal counsel.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, just for a little bit of history, when I served on this council, at one point the budget for professional services was about $250,000, and we made a conscious decision to trim that way back and ask the HR directors to come before council and explain when they needed more money.
Any other questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? Mr. Rockford. Yes, please.
You're making a move, Dave. No, you're fine. Dave McElfresh, 153 North 39th Street, Newark, Ohio. My question for the chair is, do we not already have a current list for firefighters?
Director Busker.
I use firefighters as an example. It's the police that we need some additional lists for right now.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions regarding this legislation? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Our next piece of legislation is to consider resolution number 1561, appropriating monies for the current expenses of municipal corporation. Section 1 is a request for an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 100 general fund in the amount of $11,055.47 to cover cost of impound clerk duties through year end. Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, these dollars are coming out of the proceeds of the sale of the impound lot, the sale we just had. For budgeting and bookkeeping reasons, when we created the impound lot coordinator / traffic clerk, because those dollars come out of different areas, we need to have different funding for that position. It can't be all the same funding. So what we're doing is we're setting up the funding needed to fund the portion of the work that'll be done for the impound lot, and we'll pay that through the general fund. And again, this came from the proceeds of the sale of the last auction.
So, can you say how much was made from the last sale?
Right. It was a lower sale than anticipated. Scrap prices are down. We did around $24,500, and I'm within a couple $100. We're planning another auction in October, and we hope to have close to 100 cars in there, but if scrap prices are still down. You know, the one thing we do when you do municipal budgeting, you have to do estimates, and we estimated this year around $50,000 for income off the impound lot, and to date we're just below halfway that mark. And we can fill that in with a few scrap sales too.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bode.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Floyd. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Our next piece of legislation, or next section is, there's hereby a disappropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 100 general fund in the amount of $4,700. Director Rhodes.
Mr. Chair, what this is for is I had an employee of ours in the custodial area that picked up health insurance. Previously, in years past, that employee did not have health insurance, so we're asking to disappropriate some dollars that we feel are extra in this budget to cover that expense. You'll see the next item there is an appropriation of that. So we're merely moving money that was in my service budget to cover an expense that was not accounted for.
Thank you, sir.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bode. Second, Mr. Cost. Any questions regarding Section 2? Questions from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And Section 3 is related to the same activity. Is there any questions or comments from the committee regarding Section 3?
Make a motion.
Motion, Mrs. Floyd.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bubb. Any further questions, comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving Section 3 on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Section 4 is a request for an appropriation of unappropriated balance of 100 general fund in the amount of $1,694.24. Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Marmee challenged me probably 3 years ago to go after property taxes, watershed taxes, anything we could do to save the taxpayer dollars. We received another $1,694.24 back. We would like to have that appropriated.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bubb.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Floyd. Any questions, comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And something I didn't do at the beginning, but for the record, committee members present are Mrs. Floyd, Mr. Marmee, Mr. Bubb, Mr. Cost, and myself. Section 5 is a request for an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 100 general fund in the amount of $750. Director Rhodes.
This is kind of fun. We'd like to thank our friends at the Elks. This is a donation from the Elks. They donated it to us, and they, for the reason of buying equipment for the Parks Department. Out of these dollars, we'll be able to buy 2 blowers, one of them being a backpack and a chainsaw.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bubb. Second. Second, Mr. Cost. With our thanks to the Elks, right?
Yeah, thanks to the Elks.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding this? Any questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Our Section 6 is a request for an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 152 Budget Stabilization Fund in the amount of $10,000. Director Buskirk.
6 and 7 are related. Again, that $10,000 would go over into professional services. I needed a total of 20. David was kind enough to offer 10. We're trying to stay out of that fund if there's any way possible.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Floyd. Any further comments or questions? Comments, questions from the audience? All those in favor, move this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 3-2. And section 7 was related to Director Buskirk's comments earlier. Any questions or comments from the committee? Any motions from the committee?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cost. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 3-2. Okay. Let me get my pages together here, folks. Our next piece of legislation is a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. All of these items are to be expedited, and the first section is a request for an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 153 Compensated Absences Fund in the amount of $550, which is a payout for an employee. And I see Judge Stansberry is with us tonight.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Good to see you and all the members of the committee. This is simply just to pay out unused but earned vacation time for an employee who's no longer working in my office.
Thank you, Judge Stansberry.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub. Second, Mr. Cost. Questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Judge Stansberry. Section 2 is a request for a disappropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 231 Probation Improvement and Incentive Grant Fund in an amount of $10,020. And Director Satt is at the podium.
Good evening, everyone. 2 and 3 are directly related. I filed a budget revision for our probation improvement and incentives grant. We had an excess of $10,020 in the salaries and fringe benefits. We're going to be moving that to law enforcement. We're going to buy some SCRAM monitors, which is continuous alcohol use monitors, and we're going to buy some furniture for a few officers that have some really old furniture that's really not up to par for them.
Thank you, Director Satt. Questions, comments from the audience, or from the committee, I'm sorry.
Make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cost. Didn't someone break some of those SCRAM units once before, like a year ago or so? Or?
They do, and the defendants, we try to get the money back from them. Sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not, but we've actually been filing new charges. If they don't return it, it's a felony. If they just damage it, it's a misdemeanor. So we've been kind of successful that way. So.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All in favor of moving this section 2 on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And section 3 is related to the same topic. Motion, Mrs. Floyd.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bub. Questions, comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign for nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Director Satt.
Thank you.
That concludes the business of the Finance Committee. Up next is Safety Committee.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting of Newark City Council's Safety Committee to order. Members present tonight are Mrs. Floyd, Mr. Johnson, myself, we have Mr. Rath, and then we have Mr. Blake sitting in for Mr. Guthrie this evening. We'll hear 2 presentations tonight, one from our Mayor's Administration and one from the IAFF Local 109. The committee will likely ask questions and discuss after each presentation. I would like to welcome all the members of the public who are here tonight. After both presentations are given, I'll be happy to invite citizens up to make any comments they'd like to make after our presentations. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Safety Director Spurgeon and anyone from the administration who would like to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. You've asked for a presentation on the manning, closing of stations, overtime issues, and EMS income being less than mutual aid. It would appear our friends in labor have a PowerPoint presentation. We'd be happy to cede the floor to them first.
Would our friends in the IFF Local 109 like to present at this time?
I would like to hear the city's case before we present.
We do have you listed as first on the agenda, but if you would not wish to present at this time, we can go ahead and hear a presentation, and you can make comments with everyone else if you'd like.
We have no official presentation. We'll answer your questions. We've seen your agenda. Chief Connor's here to give you specifics. If you'd like us to go first.
Okay, no comments for a presentation.
We don't have a computer. We have had trouble with PowerPoints in the past. As a courtesy, I'm offering to our friends in labor to go first. What is your wish?
We can go ahead and, if anyone has questions for the safety director, anyone from the administration, could entertain those now, since there's no presentation.
Mr. Chair, we're happy to offer some specifics. What I'm saying to you is we don't have a PowerPoint, we don't have a media presentation. The chief is here and will lay before you the compelling, the dynamics of the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire and EMS. I'm simply saying if our friends in labor want to set up their computer and go first, we'd be happy to do that.
You would do your presentation at this point? Or would Chief Connor like to speak on manning issues, anything going on?
Mr. Chair, as Director of Public Safety, I'm clearly saying for the record, Chief Connor's here. He will present to you the Division of Fire as he sees it. Would you like us to go first, or would you like our friends in labor to go first?
Oh, yes, I would like you to go first. That's what it says on the agenda. I would prefer.
And I'm saying to you, sir, that we don't have a computer. I was offering to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
No problem.
So Chief Connor's here for the specifics. The model in the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire and EMS is unsustainable. I'd like to thank our friends in labor here tonight. They're brave service providers who deserve every benefit that they've got. You will not hear me speak ill of what they've had. All I wish to speak of is what we can afford. Chief Connor is our chief here. We'll be happy to present to you.
Thank you, Director Spurgeon. There was a series of questions that we received by email from some of you, and I'm here prepared to answer some of those questions for you and any other questions you might have to try to clear up the issue a little bit about what's going on in the City of Newark Fire Department right now. Obviously, it's a very challenging time financially for the city with our staffing issues and some other issues that have been brought to light in the media and some other places. I'd like to just answer some of your questions and help clear up any questions you may have or concerns that you may have regarding what we're currently doing now, and maybe clear up the issue for you. So with that being said, does anybody want to start with that, or would you like me to just go ahead and answer some of the questions?
Any questions from the committee?
Carol, I got some questions from you here.
Yeah,
Do you want me to just go
I
ahead?
sent a whole long list of questions.
You did,
so
you did.
if you would like
Okay.
to just go down through those, and
Sure.
then I have a couple of others that have come up since then, okay?
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Some of the questions that were received by email were how many firefighters we have now. We have 71 firefighters. I make 72. How did the 22 a day, if they were all working, be distributed among the 4 stations? We currently have a staffing matrix, which is a policy. It's our 201-01B policy. It looks like this. I don't know if all of you had seen this or not. But this specifies exactly where, depending on the amount of people that are at work that day, where they would be staffed and which trucks and apparatus would be staffed that day. This gives our assistant chief, the platoon commander, the ability to be consistent with our department. So depending on the amount of people at work that day, they can look here and we know exactly what will be staffed that day. Okay. So with 22 a day, we're going to be completely staffed at that point. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
The matrix? Okay. Now, Question number 3, if there were only 13 firefighters on duty, how would they be distributed? Again, I refer to the matrix. So in the matrix here, we spelled it from 19 all the way down to 9. And there has to be an emergency situation for staffing levels with the fire department, depending on who shows up. At 13, it spells out, do you want me to go through specifically what is staffed that day, Carol?
Can I just ask, could you email that to each one of us?
I sure can.
Because we've got major decisions to make, and I think the more information we have, the better off we are.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
I haven't received really any information from anybody in the safety committee. I haven't had a whole lot of communications with anybody on council, honestly, in regards to this until tonight, which kind of troubles me a little bit. I'd be more than happy to be available at any time for any of you to contact me and ask your questions. We can sit down and really talk about the needs of the city and where we're going. So I would really encourage you to reach out to me, and we can answer some of these questions that you might have and move forward. So I appreciate the interaction. That would be great. Question number 4 is a reminder about the distribution of EMS funding and EMS billing legislation. I will defer to Director Spurgeon, who manages that. Would you like to say, we'll just pass on that one?
Please.
Yes, sir. All right. How the use of outside, like Heath, Newark Township mutual aid has affected the EMS funding that we have. We've got a trend here. I've done a little chart here, 2012 to 2015 year to date, as far as potential cost recovery that we didn't actually obtain due to mutual aid transporting our runs. In 2012, the gross revenue, and this is averaging, these are all on averages, about average recovery per run, and the average of patients that we transport, of all the 100% of runs we transport or we go on, we transport 63% on average. An average recovery is about $375, and in 2012 it was $36,000. $47,000 in 2013, $30,000 in 2014, and year-to-date it's $18,750. So that's cost recovery for mutual aid. That's something that they potentially could gather from us. How often do we have to call in other departments to help us, just on average? That's kind of the chart that I just mentioned, the number of mutual aid runs received. It's anywhere from... Go ahead.
Mr. Essen, ask a question.
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
Chief.
Absolutely.
Could you back up, please?
Yes, sir.
Those numbers that you gave for 12, 13, 14, and 15, if you could repeat those just for us.
2012, these are estimates.
Also explain what you mean by cost recovery.
Cost recovery is the ability to provide service to... There's an expense that we partake of in providing EMS. So the EMS billing legislation, and I don't want to speak with Director Spurgeon, he can manage this as well, but it's cost recovery. It's an expensive business to provide EMS. We try to cost recover those costs, those bills that we have to pay with that money that we bill somebody. So that money helps to pay for that EMS unit and the supplies on it in order to provide the service and keep the service to a top-notch service which we provide. Did I answer your question?
So, for example, in 2014, we had $30,000.
2013, $47,625 is potential.
2013, $47,000.
In 2013.
That's the amount of money that we billed?
No, that is the amount of money that mutual aid, if you took the mutual aid departments that are coming to help us on EMS calls, that potential money that they could have billed and taken, that we could have had if we had another medic unit in Newark to take that call.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sorry I confused that for you.
That's okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Any other question on that? Okay.
Wait, Mr. Chair, say it again.
EMS is, when we make an EMS run in the city of Newark, we bill their insurance company for coverage. That is to reimburse our costs.
Correct.
Okay. Mutual aid comes in, for instance, Newark Township, the city of Heath, Granville. Those departments can come in, and when they transport our patients to the hospital, that patient gets billed, and they keep the cost of the billing. Okay. Did that clear it up a little bit more?
And so the numbers that you provided are...
That is money that left the city.
Okay.
Because we did not have an EMS unit. Our EMS service is extremely busy in the city of Newark.
Okay.
I have 6 or 8 departments here that are similar in size. as far as population is concerned, and we have more runs than they do. We're an extremely busy service in the city of Newark. So,
Excuse me, Chief, is that based on 100% collection, though?
that is not. That is based on
On our average collections? Okay.
4-year average. Patients transported 63% we transport. So we build out more than that, but 63% is an average of what you can actually recover.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Did I answer that, Mayor?
Yeah, sure does.
Thank you.
And then can you say the 12, 13, 14 numbers again?
2012, 36,000.
36.
2013, 47,000. 2014, 30,000. And 2015, 18,750.
Thank you, sir.
These are averages. We have to take averages and when you figure these runs.
Mr. Johnson?
Chief, could you include that in the email with the matrix?
I sure can. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Excuse me, may I just
Sure.
want to say, I think most of us have not asked you questions ahead of time because we were figuring this is the meeting where we would, get some of those answers.
Sure.
So I'm sure we all have additional questions. The
Okay.
more you know, the more you want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a question on how we have dealt with overtime in the past and why we can't do that now. Staffing levels have fallen, but daily staffing levels are attempting to be maintained. The fact of the matter is we don't have the ability financially to replace the full-time firefighters that we need. However, we're trying to maintain a level of service on the street that is very costly at this point, and in some cases turns into overtime, which all of you know. That's not a secret that we've been paying a lot of overtime to try to maintain a certain staffing level. So the staffing levels, when they fall, we still try to maintain a staffing level during the day, and that's why we're paying overtime to maintain those levels. So the money itself is going to be spent on overtime in order to do that. Any questions on that? Hearing none?
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chief, when we adopted our budget for 2015, my understanding is that we had, according to the auditor's office, it was 78 position-based budgeted positions for the fire department. So if there was 78 budgeted positions, can you explain why we're not up to there?
I can. That's a great question. I agree I don't agree there's 78, I agree there's 76. But the reason why those firefighters were not hired full-time is because the fact of the matter is the overtime money available. Right now we're using the overtime money is gone. In order to hire those people in our Schedule A, or what we call each individual person and their benefits and salaries, I can hire those 3 or 4 people full-time. The problem is I can't. That will not fix my overtime problem. But I would have expended all those resources and money to get to that point. So I would have no or very little overtime money to get through the year with that. It's easier to staff with the overtime money currently than try to put a Band-Aid on the situation. In order to eliminate overtime, I would have to hire probably 9 to 12 full-time firefighters, and I just don't have the money in the budget to do that. However, using those monies as overtime, I can at least staff 14, is what we're doing currently today. Years ago, we staffed 19. We dropped to 16 over the past several years. And with the financial situation that we're currently in, we're at 14. With the money that we have in that hiring, we can staff 14. If I'd have hired those 3 or 4 people full-time, that's 1 per shift and 1 extra, maybe. That still doesn't eliminate the overtime because I'm maintaining a minimum staffing standard. The way we staff and schedule is very, very hard to understand for somebody that doesn't work that 24/48 schedule. And we do have some contractual obligations with Kelly days. The Kelly days that the firefighters get, those are an unpaid day that they get to balance the hours from 56 hours to 48 hours. It helps to relieve some of the debt, the cost for the city. However, we don't have those people on those days. Same with vacation days. We have every day, 2 days, every day we have 2 people off on vacation. So in some cases we have 6 people off, and we have to replace them. 1 person's not going to make that big a difference. However, with paying overtime funds currently, I can get through with 14 and maintain some staffing standard. Worst case scenario is I hire those people up to 75 or 76 firefighters, and I have very minimal overtime, where that's $150,000 or so. That $150,000 can go in 6 months. In June or July, I have no overtime funds, and now those days won't be replaced. So I could drop staffing theoretically down to 9. This year specifically, we had 11 people injured or sick, extended leave. That was an anomaly. It doesn't happen all the time, but I can't predict that. These are people that are injured on duty and off duty. And it took a lot of time off. When we're already staffed at 22 or 23 per shift, and I'm trying to maintain 16 with Kelly days and vacation days, I'm already at one person gets sick or injured, I have a potential overtime that day to maintain a staffing level. So the matrix spells out exactly what happens, and what happens is that we brown out a fire station, or we close a truck down somewhere in the city. Obviously, you've seen where, since I've become chief, that I've moved some medics around. What happens is, with reduced staffing levels, I put our people where the majority of calls are. I encourage all of you to go to our website and look at the data. It's all placed out there, the data, the percentage of calls. I'm very metric-based as far as where I put our resources. It's something I think about every day. I try to move the resources around to make sure that everybody in the city is covered the best I can with the resources that I have available. So, did I answer your question about why we don't hire?
Well, it was your decision not to hire because you don't feel as though it would alleviate the complete problems.
Director Spurgeon and I have multiple conversations. We speak every day. We have meetings about these things. We talked about hiring. Obviously, I would love to be able to hire a whole bunch of firefighters to be able to adequately staff the city. The fact of the matter is, we don't have the money to hire enough to eliminate the overtime and maintain a minimum staffing standard of full-time firefighters. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, so you're saying basically that the money that was in the budget for the additional firefighters we hope to hire is being used for overtime?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. You're giving us lots and lots of facts and figures, and I know, and I said in my email, I know you deal with this stuff all the time. I know you look at it, and you see it, and you understand it, and we don't, you know. We look at this, and we're told this is what we need to do, and this is what we should do. And it's really hard, because I can't see that in my mind. Now, is this website you're talking about, is this on the city website?
It is linked to the city website. It's www.newarkohiofire.org. It's a great website. One of the Assistant Chief Nick Simmons put together, and has a lot of stats and statistics and all kinds of information for you about our fire department.
Okay, Newark, Ohio.
Fire.org.
Okay.
I think there's some information out there that, and maybe when I make decisions, it will help you as you look at the statistics on there why I might have made that decision. But they're very metric-based decisions.
Okay.
Yeah. You got that confused look. Anything else? Sure. Just fire away at me. That's okay. Okay. Any other questions? Move on to the next question. How much on average would it cost to hire another firefighter, counting all benefits, not just salary? Well, I have, with everything involved, it's $67,287. That's a one full-time firefighter at starting wages, including all of their benefits. So that's benefits and salary. Okay?
Could you repeat?
Go ahead, sure. I sure can. $67,287. If we hired a new firefighter today, that's what the annual cost would be, with benefits and everything. Their starting wages are $33,459, and everything else is additional benefits.
How does that compare to other Central Ohio municipalities?
Newark is on the low side of benefits and salaries for firefighters. Okay, what do you see as a solution to the problem of keeping the city safe? And here's the question. As fire chief, it is my responsibility, and I feel this way, that I'm going to try to staff the fire department to the best of my ability, and keeping all of the people out here's interests at heart about what they need in providing that service. There's difficult decisions to be made, but the fact of the matter remains that we have to have firefighters on the street every day and paramedics taking care of everyone. Like I've stated before, we're a very busy fire department, very busy. I worry about their safety, of course, as any fire chief should. The professionalism of the people that work with us in the fire department is outstanding. It is outstanding. I've been involved with many, many organizations in my short life, but I have, and this is one of the best I've ever been involved with, and I'm humbled to be the fire chief to represent these people. They do a great job. They really, really do. So the difficult decision is, what do I do in order to try to find a solution to our financial situation here? Part-time firefighters is always brought up. The media and a lot of different people in the community have asked to look into part-time firefighters. Why are we not looking into that? Why do other fire departments have part-time firefighters? I would like to ask the safety committee if you would like me to look into part-time firefighters as part of a potential solution. I will do that. Do I have a plan today? No, I don't. I want to have some support from council before I would go and put together a plan for you. It's a pretty tall endeavor, and in order to do that, I can provide you some information to move forward.
If I read the article in the paper and you said if you get somebody for part-time, you're talking 12 hours. How does that work considering most firefighters work 24?
I don't really want to get into exactly the details of what the plan would look like.
Yeah.
But we do work some our overtime shifts or 12-hour overtime shifts, but our full-time firefighters work their scheduled 24-hour shifts and 48 off.
Okay. So if you're doing a part-time firefighter, what would be a salary or what would be a cost for one 12-hour shift? Do you know?
Well, it depends on what hourly rate that we would pay them. That's something that if I brought a plan to you, I would present that plan and give you an idea what exactly that would cost. But it depends on what hourly rate that we have.
Okay.
And of course, there's limitations to what part-timers can work through the Obamacare and some of the things that are going on as far as hours worked. Okay. So there's a whole plethora of information that would have to go into a plan like that and provide information to you. What I want from the safety committee tonight is information whether you want me to pursue looking into a plan and providing you a plan to look at before I spend a whole lot of time doing that. I need the support. But that's potentially, it would be designed to help cover the days that the firefighters have off, as far as Kelly days, vacation days, and those types of things.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Johnson, how many part-time firefighters are we talking about?
Well, there's not really a number that we're going to decide. It depends on what financial ability the city has to pay. That is a topic of conversation with labor and the administration on how many firefighters do we need to hire to replace one full-time firefighter. Those are discussions that probably happen outside this forum and maybe be presented in a plan.
Mr. Rath?
Chief, I just would like to know your general opinion. What is your opinion on part-time firefighters? And how does, I guess for one, what is your opinion about part-time firefighters? And then for two, what is your opinion on how that'll affect us financially? Is that could that possibly be a viable solution?
Okay.
And if you could expand on that.
Yeah, question number one is, what's my opinion? Part-time firefighters are a cost savings measure for a lot of other fire departments. As fire chief, I would like to have, I believe we have 93 full-time positions allocated by legislation to have in the fire department. That's what I really would like to have. The fact of the matter is we don't have money to do that. I also have a responsibility to provide service to the citizens of Newark. When I'm out of money, I have to look at alternative staffing solutions. Whether a part-time plan would be something that Newark would benefit from would be yet to be determined. But I'm telling you, I'm looking into every option I can to staff the fire department. It is something that there's not many options out there besides more money. That's a fact of the matter. We've had meetings upon meetings upon meetings about what is your solution, what is your solution, what is your solution. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we need more money. I think, who doesn't? But that doesn't solve my problem immediately. It really, really doesn't. I have to give the firefighters that are working very hard every day, up all night. We have quite a few fires, a ton of EMS calls. I have to give them some relief at some point. So the fact of the matter is, it's yet to be determined whether a part-time program would benefit the city of Newark or not, but it's something I'm willing to look into if you wish, to try to make the situation better.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson?
With part-time people, that would mean additional training?
No.
It would
In order
not
to,
mean-
nope.
They would not, where would they come from?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. We would advertise, it's not, part-time firefighters is not a new concept. It happens across the state, this region. I won't speak about America, but this region has a lot of part-time firefighters. You can tailor your system to hire people that already have the current level of training that you're looking for, whether that's firefighter 240 and paramedic, which each one of the firefighters has. That would be what I would like to do, but let's get into the plan.
The kind of people that, it's not having to hire a new cadre of people who are going to start all over.
Nope.
And have to try to learn what they have to do.
No, that's correct. It would be somebody that has the training.
Mr. Chief, could you talk to us a little bit about the cost associated with hiring a new part-time firefighter, for example? How much each of those could cost?
Sure. Part-time firefighters depends on the hourly rate, but as far as there's a little bit upfront cost in order to get a firefighter started, whether that's a full-time firefighter or a part-time firefighter. We have to get them gear, helmet, boots, gloves, jacket, turnout pants, rope bags, all the things that we wear for our daily lives in the fire department to provide safety to everyone. That's an expense. Right around $5,000 just in equipment and background check to get you started. So it's $5,000 per person. That's a common dollar figure associated with starting firefighters in any organization at this point. That includes background investigations. We all do BCI, FBI background checks on everybody that we hire, physicals, those types of things, and gear. So we're looking at about $5,000 per person.
Now, would you be open to hiring part-timers that did not have any training? And there would be a cost associated with that training, right?
No.
You would not be open to that
No.
as part of your plan?
No.
Okay.
I have to plug and play. I need people on the street.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
On this committee? Just so I have this straight. When you said when somebody comes in, or a full-time firefighter comes in for overtime, they only come in 12 hours?
We have 12-hour shifts for overtime. That's correct.
And the other 12, somebody else comes in?
Correct. So when you have somebody call off or is injured or their wife's having a baby or whatever it is, there's a 24-hour period of time that person's missing. We call a 12-hour person in and a 12-hour person in. So two people split the shift.
Thank you.
If that makes sense.
I think this is difficult for us to understand because 4 or 5 years ago, I sat in on like 80 hours negotiation with the firefighters, and I heard lots of things, and it sort of went, because there's so many numbers and so many factors, and it's so different from the 9 to 5 jobs that most people work,
absolutely.
regular shift thing. And I think that makes it additionally confusing. I would say any factual information you can email to us would help us immensely. The more facts we have, I think the more information we have, the better off we are. We need to know. I think we all have a hard time thinking about jumping into anything. We need facts. We need to know what's going on, and we'll hear everybody's opinion on it, but we need facts to base what we do on it.
And I appreciate that greatly.
We're making some pretty important decisions for the city of Newark. And I think for everybody up here, we're not here if we don't love Newark. And we're not here if we don't really want the city to be safe.
Right.
We also know, however, that our money is really tight. And that, we've got to do something that fits within those parameters. So the more information you can email to all of us, I think the better off we are.
I will.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Anyone else on that?
Yeah, if you could include some information about part-time firefighters wanting to move on. They're here for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
We buy their equipment for them.
Mm-hmm.
If they are looking for a full-time position, then they're going to move on, and that equipment does not move to someone else. Is that Can you include that kind of
Absolutely.
information?
That's a really good question.
The percentage of maybe who stays and who wants to move on to a full count?
Each organization specifically has their own turnover rates. I mean, there are turnover in part-time, no matter if it's a fire department, the hospital, subway, whatever. There's turnover rates in any part-time organization. I would hope to foster an organization that would encourage people to stay. Perfect timing. I know, that's right. So the turnover rates in part-timers can vary. Some organizations I've talked to, they have very little turnover. Some organizations have very high turnover. The cost associated with the $5,000 you're talking about, associated with the equipment that we provide for somebody, there's different ways that people deal with that. Whether they have an agreement with that employee when they're hired to prorate that equipment. If you leave in a period of time, you pay us back for some of the money we have invested in you. That has been proven to be a partially successful venture for some people. Hopefully, to create an environment they want to work in. That's something that we really would like to do. Newark's a great place to work. I would also like to provide some incentive for those part-timers that they could be full-timers here as well. That's something provided in the plan that I would provide that would try to. This is the farm team for the Newark Fire Department full-time staff. I'd really like to see our part-timers that dedicate their time and efforts to helping the citizens of Newark be able to come on full-time with us when a spot came available. So that's all part of a potential plan moving forward.
Chief, would you say that generally are higher turnover rates associated with part-timers than full-timers?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think that's any different than anywhere else in some cases. Anything else? I've got two more questions here.
No, yeah.
What have other cities done when they had fewer firefighters than they needed? And you referenced Mansfield making cutbacks.
I don't know.
Well, other cities have laid off firefighters. Mm-hmm. We're very fortunate that we have not laid any firefighters off. A lot of firefighters have left, but we have not had to lay anybody off and tell them to go home. Newark has a history of not having to lay people off in public safety. That's extremely important to me as chief that we don't do that. And I believe the mayor and his staff agree that we'll try to put everything into public safety that we can. It's a very tough time. It's a very tough time. There's a lot of great people working to try to figure this problem out, myself included, in order to try to keep our staffing and even increase our staffing if we can, one way or another. The bottom line is, fire chief, I have to have the ability to provide service to the people. And that's what we're doing here today, trying to give you a solution, some form of a solution moving forward, because more money that's everyone's solution. I'm trying to be realistic about this and push it forward to you. Number 11 here, Ms. Floyd, is any other pertinent info that you have that can make the situation clear. I think I've muddied it up for some of you, and I think that's just part of the dynamics that we have at the fire department. Our schedules are different. Their contractual rights are make it kind of confusing for some of you, but necessary to the job that we do. It is my job as a manager to try to figure out how to make that work with everybody and provide a good service. So that's what we're doing.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Floyd?
At the end of the newspaper article on Sunday, it said, this is your quote, "The budget this year allows for hire firefighters, I think 3, that's 1 per shift. That will not eliminate my overtime problem completely." I'm assuming because you need the money for overtime, we're probably not going to hire anybody. Is that?
I do not have plans to hire anybody. Like I stated before, Director Spurgeon, and I've had many hours of conversation in regards to this. We would like to hire full-time firefighters. The balance is that takes the money that I'm using for overtime away, but does not fix my overtime problem. I hope I explained that well enough that at least this piece of the pie that you understand why I would not be hiring. I do want to hire full-time firefighters, but I have to forecast the remainder of the year and being able to staff. And if I use all those monies for full-time firefighters, I will still have overtime needs unless we hire more firefighters than that. hope that makes sense to you.
It does, but it's still,
Okay, all right.
to use a nice English word.
Yes, Mr. Marmon.
Chief, can I just ask how many years you have of experience with the fire department?
This is my 23rd year in the fire service. I was hired in 1993 here in the city of Newark. And I've been up through the ranks as a firefighter, paramedic, lieutenant captain, assistant chief, and now chief.
Okay. And Director Spurgeon, how many years do you have experience in fire safety?
It's my 30th year at the city of Newark, 26 of those plus providing public safety, either providing or administrating.
Okay. I agree with Mrs. Floyd that this is a complicated issue, and I am just thankful that we have over 50 years of experience making executive decisions on the citizens' behalf. And I think the facts that we really need to know is that we have competent individuals making the decisions that need to be made on a day-to-day basis to make sure that our citizens are safe. I really appreciate that. And even though I don't understand all the ins and outs, and you're willing to share that information with us, I'm just thankful that we have the experience that we do here to make those types of decisions, to make sure that my family is safe, and to make sure that everybody in the city of Newark is safe. Thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Is there any other questions?
Can we have Director Spurgeon explain the EMS billing again? I know we've heard this before, but it sort of goes in one ear and gets...
One thing I'd like to do is retrain everybody's vocabulary, EMS billing. We're not trying to make a buck on EMS billing. It is a cost recovery service. In 2006, a previous council accepted the fact that the Newark Division of Fire, in its 200-year proud history, is funded as a fire division. So post-Vietnam War, all these folks come back with wonderful trauma skills. EMS, here we are today. Along the way, we've not increased the budget, and as we see the numbers of fires go down, we're seeing EMS explode. So we've got an ordinance that says, hey, safety director, you'll make a bona fide effort to recover the cost of that service. The cost is the availability of it. It's an emergency room on wheels, and you've got all your providers right here that Chief Connor said it best. They do an outstanding job. Without those monies, we can't have that available. Now, if you use the service, we're going to ask your insurance company to participate, and then we're going to ask you to participate in the copay. That is EMS billing. Those monies, we look very closely at the end of the month report that Jackie Prince gives. I forecast that as a revenue prediction. It's about $1.4 million. We're 40% into the year, and we're 44% of our cost recovery. So we're going right down the line. We're good on my predictions. The other thing is there's been a lot of discussion on mutual aid. And Chief Connor gave you the revenue or the cost recoveries, but what we're not considering is what it would cost to recover those. We don't have the resources to take these mutual aid runs, which is why we're taking them. There would be a cost, I believe, greater than the potential income to go harvest that income. So when we talk about mutual aid, it seems like we focus on EMS and what bucks can be brought in. I'd encourage this body to realize there's a cost to recover that. And the other piece of mutual aid that doesn't get discussed is a great job that our firefighters do in providing fire coverage to our neighbors. While our neighbors might help us on EMS, they don't have the host of firefighters and fire trucks that we do to help balance that relationship. That's EMS cost recovery in a nutshell.
Any other questions for Director Spurgeon? Okay, with
Just
Mr.
because
Johnson?
I don't know. Now, when we help other departments with fires, etc., and of course there's a cost just to do that, do we recover that cost from them in any way, shape, or form?
Fire, rescue, any other services, we do not.
Okay.
We are, this council, not the executive branch of government, the legislative body said cost recover for EMS only. Pat and I believe, was a captain. I was an assistant chief when all the debate occurred. And again, so why I give you the 200-year history of the division, they've never got the budget for a fire EMS. We call it mission creep. All of a sudden we fight fires and now we do everything. Well, as those things creeped into our mission, why can't you help me? We didn't see that expansion of the budget as well. And that, I believe the EMS cost recovery at the time was an attempt by the legislative body to bring some extra bucks in to their budget. Without that $1.4 million, it's a game changer. I have to answer phone calls all the time by folks who are concerned, why did I get a bill? And my explanation is, without that money, we can't have these brave folks, emergency room on wheels, waiting to help you.
Okay, I was just curious about the other departments and township, et cetera, whether they kick back anything into our coffers because we've helped them.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, our neighbors, for instance, Newark Township, and Chief, you have to help me on this. I don't believe cost recover. Heath does, but they don't put money in our treasury. Do they come in and help us? They bill our Heath. They come to your house, they're going to bill you.
Right.
We go to Heath's house, we're going to bill you. Newark Township doesn't. That's the local legislative bodies deciding what's best for their particular community.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cross? I'm also not a member of this committee. What is the percentage of our runs as far as EMS versus fire?
I'm going to allow Chief Connor to correct me, but I'm going to say it's probably 85-15 EMS.
Yeah, very close to that.
It's what we've seen, and please let me elaborate or expand a bit, it is, again, these folks in the audience fight fire, and they fight a lot of fire. But for every one fire call, they're taking 9 EMS calls. And when we talk about strategic planning, you and I aren't getting any younger. And we know as the baby boomers age, that EMS is going to continue to be an expectation of our constituency.
And the second part of my question, you were talking about the recovery of funds. I'm sure there are situations where people are not insured or people are not able to pay for those runs. So is that how is that handled?
The EMS cost recovery legislation has a caveat. If you have the inability to pay, it says financial hardship is what it actually says, then you get consideration. When I first took this position, what I found is in the billing papers, it wasn't written down anywhere. So I told MedBill I wanted on the back side of that a form that they fill out. If they have a financial hardship, it comes to me. I consider each and every one of those. I don't grant them all, I grant some. And I use just the, I want to say Department of Labor, poverty levels, as the federal government says. Somebody above the poverty level can make a pretty compelling argument. I'll consider it, but a millionaire that can't pay for the summer home, I don't think this body wants me to give them a pass. That might be an egregious example, but that's kind of the logic. I try to make it very objective. I can't give one person just because they're my buddy or neighbor, what have you. I try to apply this is the baseline. You either make that or you don't.
So then in most cases insurance is covering it and they're paying their copay?
Well, I don't want to say most cases. We created, I believe, some confusion in the constituency, and I shouldn't say we, but the previous legislative body. Again, many of us in the room were in the division at the time, and there was much hand-wringing about this thing because it was politically uncomfortable. Gee, I already pay taxes, now you want some more money from me. So there became a misnomer that this is soft billing. Bill us 3 times and we'll go away. That's not true, number one. We're going to continue to call and ask you to participate. What I don't know is the percentage of those who don't pay what they're supposed to, but I do know over the life of that ordinance, it's about $450,000 that's uncollected because of this confusion that was created in 2006.
Mr. Rath? So if it's $450,000 uncollected, how much has been collected?
Well, I can think...
Ballpark.
6, 7, 8 million?
In my toes.
About $1 million a year, $1.3 million a year. Yeah, I don't want to go back before me, but I think you could say probably $1 million a year safely. We've done 1.4, ticked up a little bit every year since I've had the position.
And continue on. The 450,000 is over a year or over?
That's over the life of the. No, that's. I get very detailed breakdowns. Again, Chief Connor and I both share a love of metrics. If we can't measure it, we can't manage it. I see the numbers, and that's over the life of the ordinance. And again, those never go away. So but at some point, we quit calling because you're taking valuable time, that kind of thing.
So that 450,000 represents a fairly small percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Mr. Blake?
Mr. Chair, just to follow up, so you're, Director Spurgeon, you're managing this out of your office and not a collection agency, that's correct?
Yes, the law charges me. I believe the language is somewhat vague. I also believe there was some community confusion created when it rolled out. But the law charges me to get it done. We enlist a local company, Medbill Resources, to help us in those efforts.
Mr. Cost, you have a question?
And so I want to make sure I understand. The system had been a soft bill up to a certain point, and then before you said you had the other side of the sheet. Did that other side of the sheet start with you, or was that before you? Or
the ordinance, when you read it, it doesn't say soft bill, it doesn't say hard bill. I believe there's some language that creates confusion. The part that you could apply for a financial hardship is in the ordinance, but I don't believe it was clearly articulated to folks who truly had a financial hardship. And so I have a sense of fair play. I said, time out. Put it right on the back of the bill. That way there's no, oh, okay, here I can fill it out. I just thought it was to be fair, to be transparent, because I got people called me, gee, I wish I'd have known that. I'd applied for one. Fine, put it where everybody gets that, no matter what. And it's no more sheet of paper, it's a little bit more ink to do it.
So that back side of the page, that was started with you?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Director Spurgeon? Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Blake?
I think we talked a lot about the revenue side of the EMS, but can you break down the percentage of how the expenditure of the EMS works? I know that could get kind of confusing as well for folks.
The EMS legislation breakdown is in the custody of the Clerk of Council. Anticipating I get that question, if you allow me to dig through my papers, I brought a copy with me. EMS cost recovery legislation is a two-headed animal, if you will, with it's chopped four ways on each side. Part A, or Section 1, net revenue, 40% of that net revenue goes to the Division of Fire. Then it's got four separate lines. 60% dedicated expenses associated with the hiring and maintaining of fire department personnel. 20% to fire department capital improvement expenses. 15% to fire department administrative and capital expenses. 5% dedicated to capital improvements specifically for use in funding the acquisition of real property construction for the fire station. That's 40% fire division side. 60% general fund side. 25%, and it's chopped four ways. And I'd be happy to email this to you if you want to write notes, that's fine too. 25% capital improvements, 25% general operating expenses, and those are both of the city. 12.5% shall be retained in reserve until the cash carryover exceeds $3 million. 37.5% shall be dedicated to capital improvements, specifically use in funding property and the construction of the fire station. So, 40-60, 4 cuts on each.
Thank you, sir.
Director Spurgeon, I know, as we just mentioned, some of the EMS billing revenues going to fund construction of the new Station 1. I was just wondering if there were any studies done at roughly how much it would have cost to upgrade and renovate the current Station 1 instead of building a whole new structure.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm surprised you asked me that question because I took you on a tour of that station. And I explained to you that while we didn't spend money to get the detailed study, I brought a commercial builder who has a great reputation in this community, a residential builder who has a great reputation in this community, as well as an architect. And all three of those professionals said, you are not being responsible if you put more money in the repair of this station. You and I had that conversation.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any number that you found.
I'd have been happy to answer that, but on 2 occasions I emailed you if you had any specific questions for tonight. I'd have been happy to do the research and answer them for you.
Yeah, it just came up as a discussion about the EMS.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for Director Spurgeon?
Can you email us that legislation?
Absolutely.
Or have Autumn do it, I don't care, but I've got it. I thought I had it here.
I would be happy to.
But I think if people have it so that, because those percentages get a little, we've heard lots of facts and figures tonight. You know I'm an English teacher and I keep going, woo! That doesn't help at all, sorry. But email it to us. Again, the more facts we have, the better off we are.
Be my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Mr. Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We only recover costs, I'll try to say that.
Thank you, sir.
We only recover costs when we transport somebody to the hospital, right?
When we transport and successfully bill and they pay us,
Well, yeah.
that's when we've truly put some money to public treasury.
But when we get calls like to go to a nursing home to put the 500-pound person that fell out of bed back into bed, we don't get any fee for that or anything. That's just one
I'm
of
going
those-
to allow Chief Connor to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we do.
No, we do not.
It's only if we transport.
That's just one of those things that we just do. And it
It's
takes
a
up
needed
our
service.
time that-
Yeah.
Okay. I'll never mind.
It's a great point because it's one of the additional wonderful services the folks in this room provide.
Correct.
Mr. Marmon?
Where do the majority of funds, the source of the majority of funds come from that we collect through EMS?
Insurance.
Which type of insurance in particular?
Oh, boy. I want to say probably Medicaid, Medicare, but ACA, which we all call Obamacare, it's a game changer. And I got meet with them about every 6-8 weeks, and every time I go out there, you talk about data overload. Go visit the friends of the insurance. Well, you understand the insurance business better than I. But I would like to say Medicaid, Medicare, there are 3 large providers in the community that we negotiate with. Otherwise, they'll send the check to you and we'll never get it back.
Right.
So those are some of the pressures on that cost recovery effort.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Director Scourgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chief Connor. We'll take a brief recess and then we will hear a presentation from the IAFF. We're going to call this meeting back to order and hear a presentation from the IAFF. Mr. McElfresh.
Thank you, Chairman Ruletta and the committee. I'd like to thank all the citizens and our brave firefighters that came out tonight and concerned citizens. My name's David McElfresh. I live at 153 North 39th Street in Newark, Ohio. I'm president of IFF Local 109. And I know we've been long already, and I was trying to keep this short. A lot of these things may have been answered, but we're going to do some review on a few of them. Why does staffing matter? Big red trucks, new stations, don't put out fires and save lives. Well-trained professional firefighters do. Our job is about getting adequate numbers of well-trained firefighters to the scene quickly to do the job and keep the citizens safe. How do we know how many is enough? One thing to look at is national standards for the fire service. NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, is a group of industry experts who set codes and standards for the fire service. This sets a standard for national response. Now you note there, NFPA 1710 talks about 15 firefighters for the initial full alarm assignment to a structure fire in a typical 2,000 square foot story family dwelling. I highlighted without a basement, no exposures. The standard allows for more people when you have exposures, which is another building close by, and most buildings in Newark have exposures, and most buildings in Newark have basements. So you would need more than a 15 for that. And it also, this standard talks about response times. You have to be there, assemble that 15 within 8 minutes of notification. These numbers do not include the chief and a medic unit that you would want on the scene to possibly take care of victims or injuries. So we start with that minimum of 15, and I'll interrupt myself because he's raising his hand. If I could, I'll take all questions at the end. If you want to write down your questions, I'll address them at the end, if that's all right with the chair. Okay. So we start with a minimum of 15, and then you have a minimum of 2 or 4 for an on-scene EMS unit, a medic truck, ambulance, some may call it, and then calls for a minimum of a chief's aide or a safety officer. So the realistic number is 18 to 20 personnel, firefighters, that you need on scene for a regular house fire, all within the 8-minute standard. Also, we look at, is there any kind of laws or regulations? We are not OSHA state, but the Ohio Administrative Code has adopted the OSHA standard that we call the 2 in, 2 out rule. Basically means you got to have 2 people out when you send 2 people into a dangerous atmosphere, such as a burning building. You'll note the picture there. You have 2 people making entry into a burning building. You have 2 people outside, the firefighters, with their gear, packed up, air, backup line. And in this case, the optimal idea is to have 5 people in an engine. The minimum standard's 4. The optimal is 5, where you have a dedicated pump operator to supply you with water. So OSHA basically says you have to have 2 in and 2 out. We currently only run 3 people in our engines, so we don't meet the 2 in out standard without an additional company, such as a medic running with the engine or another company meeting up with the engine. So that's another thing you look at about how many people do you need. I'm behind the slides. EMS staffing. Fires, as you've heard, is not our only concern. EMS is an increasing part of our job. Staffing cuts hurt EMS delivery. NFPA, the standard we talked about, does mention staffing for medics, and it recommends a minimum of 4 firefighters for advanced life support. That's what the ALS stands for. So we currently run 2 on our medics, and that's kind of an important thing to address for a lot of the citizens that ask questions, why is the fire truck always chasing a medic? Well, there's 2 people in a medic truck. So if you have a serious run, such as a cardiac event, a heart attack, a stroke, a seizure, an unconscious, whatever, it takes more than 2 people to handle that. Keeping in mind, one of those persons has to drive the truck. So if you're doing CPR, starting an IV, administering drugs, maintaining an airway of a patient, you need more people. So that's why you see the fire truck go with the ambulance. So it takes both to handle a major run, the fire and the engine. Because of the staffing, we need both sometimes to handle an advanced life support. Now when we talk about timing, because everything's about timing and staffing, American Heart Association says within 4 minutes, without oxygen, your brain starts to die. Within 10 minutes, death is likely. So obviously, quicker response times result in better EMS delivery. Now keep in mind, you have to also understand a little bit about the 911 process. There's some time, unknown time, before you realize Grandpa's down. About 1 minute, pick up the phone, call 911. A minute just went by. Another minute for the dispatch to get the information, your name, your address, dispatched out to the fire department. Then another minute for the firefighters to get the alarm, get to their truck, put the door up, get the gear on, and head out. So there's 3 minutes, and then your optimum response time by the standards is 4. So you're already 7 minutes into it, basically. And when you're looking at 4 minutes without oxygen, the brain starts to die. And under optimal conditions, you're going to get there in 7 minutes. Another thing to consider is accreditation. Newark Fire Department is one of very few departments in the state of Ohio, and I believe somewhere around 150, 160 in the country that received accreditation. Under the current cuts that we have, that accreditation will very likely be lost. Accreditation is a process of assessment. It looks at your department's ability to meet industry standards, which we just talked about some of those, and to continually self-assess and make improvements. So it took a lot of time and resources to receive that accreditation. Where are we now? We looked at the run volume. We went back to 2005. And I received these numbers from the 911 Center for calls for service. In 2005, we had 8,537 calls for service. In 2014, you can read, I guess, but 10,232, almost 20% increase in calls for service. Now, then you go to the staffing levels. Where were we in 2005? We had a contractual minimum of 19 firefighters on duty. In 2014, we had a minimum, not contractual, but the city agreed to try to maintain a minimum of 16 firefighters on duty. That's a decrease of almost 19%. I might note now that only maintaining 14 on duty is over a 35% decrease in staffing, just since 2011, which is the year we lost our 19 minimum. So, response times. We measured response times from also 911 data, and this was data I pulled when we lost our 19 staffing. So we measured when we had 19 on duty in 2011 to when we dropped to 16 on duty in 2013. And you'll see in 11, average all calls for service from the 911 center from time dispatched to time on the scene came up to 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Average in 13, 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Now we've looked at some data from currently where we're running less than 16, are running at 14, and there's data that suggests it could be as high as 7 or 8 minutes, but it's not enough data that I could clearly say this is what it is. But I do believe it is higher once we look at the complete data for at least a year of running less than 16. But that's an average increase that we studied there of only 35 seconds. But I guess what's important about that is think about your loved one not breathing or trapped in a house that is on fire. That uncomfortable silence was 35 seconds. As uncomfortable it is for you to sit here and say, what in the world is he doing? Your loved one's not breathing. They can't get out of their home. So 35 seconds is uncomfortable silence is even more uncomfortable when you can't breathe. So seconds do matter in our job. Now, where are we at today? And again, some of this may be repetitive. When you drop below 16, we have what you call cross-staffing. That is currently taking place the majority of the time at the West End Station, at Cherry Valley and West Main. And what that means, currently, when we have at least 16 on duty, there's 5 people out there. I was talking about 3 people in a fire truck, 2 on a medic truck. When we cross-staff, we go to only 3 out there on duty. And what that means, those 3 people jump on whichever truck the run is for. If it's a medic call, we jump on the medic, and we take the medic call. The engine sits there unstaffed, nobody there to run it. Likewise, if we get called out on a fire call, gas leak, whatever, the fire truck responds with the 3 people, the medic sits there out of service with nobody to staff it. And of course, the company closures, currently, anytime we drop below 18, the city refers to them as brownouts. We brown out Station 4, and that is when there are no firefighters at the station that day. None of the trucks or medic units are available for emergencies. So this map measures the 4-minute medic unit response capabilities. We had the International Association of Firefighters out of D.C. work on GIS maps for us, and this is an example of one. Measures 4-minute medic unit capabilities to get somewhere in the city in 4 minutes. That is a map of our city. The black line outlines our jurisdiction. You'll see the red dots are station 1, 2, 3, and 4. What the green represents is how often a medic can get to an emergency in 4 minutes, which we went through that earlier, what that 4 minutes means. And what the blue, when you add the blue, is if we're above 18, you add the 4th medic at Station 4. So you add your capabilities of getting someone there quicker with the 4th medic open at Station 4. There's approximately an 8% difference in the green and the blue. But statistically speaking, 8%. And when you're looking at a community of almost 50,000, 8% of 50,000 is a fairly large number of people that you do add service to. This is a 4-minute engine rescue truck, fire truck, as most of us would know it, response time. The reason why it's a little different is even at 18, we have no fire truck available at Station 4, only a medic. Now, when we drop below, anything below 16, the map refers to 14, but anything below 16 and we're cross-staffing at Station 3 where you see the blue area, we are assuming on this map that the medic truck is out on a medic run, and therefore there is no fire truck. That represents the green response area only. So you only have a fire truck at Station 1 and Station 2. There's no fire truck at 4, and the medic's out at Station 3. You see there's a very small capability of getting anywhere in 4 minutes at that point. And it would be the same with the medic. If the fire truck was out, the medic would not be able to respond from Station 3. Now, I didn't do a map of what we talked about, the 15 available, which ends up being 18 to 20 for a full firefighter response, because currently it's staffing only at 14 as a minimum. It would be a blank map, because with 14 firefighters available in the city of Newark, we would not assemble 15 Newark firefighters in 8 minutes because there's only 14 on duty. Now, you've heard a lot about how firefighters work. 24-hour shift. We're on work 1 off 2. Well, that's not exactly accurate. If you look at this map or calendar here, we'll start on Tuesday. We work 16 hours of Tuesday. We go in at 8 in the morning. We work till midnight, and then we work Wednesday from midnight to 8 for 8 hours. Then we're off a day. Then we're back in for 16 hours of Friday, work 8 hours of Saturday, then we're off a day. Work 16 hours of the Monday, work 8 hours of Tuesday, and we're off a day. And you see, you basically have 1 day to recover. So even though the old saying is you work 1 and you're off 2, 24, 48, that's straight off our pay slip. That's how we're paid. Because in a 24-hour shift, we're working 16 hours of 1 day and 8 hours of the next. Staffing formula. This may have been beat a little bit, but I think there's still some confusion. Daily staffing is not the same as assigned personnel. It's inaccurate to say that we're paying for 22 and only getting 15. Cost-saving Kelly days are unpaid days that you are not scheduled to work that actually save the city, by our figures, over $800,000 a year. I must also note that the negotiated 48-hour schedule with cost-saving Kelly days, as well as the other time off, has been in place since 1995. So the continued comments that we negotiated more time off is not accurate, as actually we had more time off in 1995 than we have today. But to explain this chart, you start with a number 22 assigned to the shift, not scheduled to work, assigned to the shift, minus the 4 cost-saving Kelly days, minimum of 2 agreed to allowed off on vacation, and then we have minus 1 injured or could be ill, or they could have had a baby or a death in the family. You're down to 15 available for duty. Leave time. So the next thing we heard, firefighters are taking too much time, possibly even implied that we are abusing our time off. So we kind of we wanted to study and see what is the trend with sick leave. So we went back to 2010, had some help from the administrative staff to look at trends. And you'll see the numbers, I won't read them all to you, but the data basically shows that the top is overall the department. How many hours department-wide in 2010 through 2014, and then a projected number for 15. Actually, sick leave use is down. Then we broke it down by person, because in those years there was different numbers on the department, so you have to average out by person. And the same, other than the year 2011 in both columns, this year sick leave is actually projected to be lower. Now, other types of leave indeed are increased. As the chief had mentioned, we had at least 11 off injured, several of those on-the-job injuries. People falling through floors and burning buildings, hurting their backs, lifting people, as well as off-duty. And our members are human. They have babies. They have deaths in their family. They take time off for that. It's a labor-intensive job. And also, we work with a lot of sick people. So when everybody's sick and has the flu or whatever, they call 911, we take them. So it's not abnormal to think that a firefighter might be sick and need to take some sick time. But the facts do not show that it has increased at all, but our workload is. Next, staffing data. Where are we at? How did we get here? Total number of firefighters on staff. In 2010, that was our high water mark, 85 firefighters. Now keep in mind this includes the 40-hour staff, but does not include the fire chief. So we were at 85, and you see the trend. Where are we at today? 71 firefighters. A decrease of over 16.5% decrease of total staffing of the firefighters. Now, it was mentioned earlier, and I'll mention it again, this, even when we were at 85, that was still well below the 93 approved by this council after the passage of the safety levy. Because it was noted by all the studies that was done, we need 93 people to do this job. So it should be no surprise to anybody that we're having trouble doing it with 71. Also, I note that 85, we started in 2010, and when this administration took over, we were at 79, and we were down to 71. We were down 8 people just in the last 4 years. Now, per the city auditor, the budget was prepared for 77 firefighters. Now, I've heard the number 78. I've heard tonight possibly the number 76. What we went with is what we'd been told 77 firefighters were budgeted for. Our current staffing's at 71. If I do my math right, that's the equivalent to 2 firefighters per day would be added to each shift had we hired what was budgeted for. This is what has created the need for overtime, cross-staffing, and company closures. If we'd staffed at the budgeted amount, it would fully staff Station 3 the majority of the time, if not all the time, and possibly open Station 4 on a regular basis, just by putting 2 more people on the shift, which if we'd have hired what we budgeted for. So, considering response times, staffing numbers, and budget information, and the eagerness of some at using the media to portray their argument and denigrate firefighters in this union, I think it is safe to say that the issue of staffing that ultimately impacts response times and safety is one of administrative doing. Fewer firefighters on the department impacts safety. Reluctance to hire or properly budget overtime dollars impacts safety. To claim that sick time, which has remained constant, or cost-saving Kelly days impact safety more than political gamemanship is just not inaccurate. It's dangerous and disingenuous. Newark's firefighters stand ready to serve, dedicated to safety, now as just before. And that is all I have, and I will entertain questions if the chair would allow.
Thank you, Mr. McElfresh. Ms. Floyd?
Is that possible for you to send that to us by email? Although you gave us a lot of figures, and some of us wrote down as much as we could. But
I have the PowerPoint. I have the staffing matrix that the chief said he would get to you. I have the rosters from 2010 to current. I have the looking use at sick leave use time and personal leave time, all in a folder that I will give to the committee. And if some of the other council people that aren't on the committee would like a copy, you can pick your color. It was whatever CVS had, made in USA. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And if you want to look through some, there's also I went ahead and put in a packet something regarding part-timers, a CERB case. Okay. Rather than hand that out separately, I put it in the packets because I thought that might be something I would be giving to council people under personnel. So. There's also a sheet in there. I said I was going to open up questions, but comparing well, I said there is. Maybe there's not. Yes. After the roster, then the matrix, there's a sheet that I didn't mention. I mentioned briefly about 1995 to today. And it goes through the leave that we had in 1995 when we went to this 48-hour work week, how many we got Kelly days, how many holiday days we had, all that. And it shows the figures straight out of the contract. You can look up the contract. And we had more time off in 1995 than we have today, and that's what that illustrates. So any questions? Mr. Chair.
Mr. McElfresh, could you talk to us a little bit about Kelly days? How they're assigned? Can a firefighter decide to take a Kelly day? Are these who picks when someone takes a Kelly day? Things of that nature.
Kelly days. Thank you, Chair. Kelly days that we got in 1995 have been the same since then. Per the contract, it says they're picked by seniority annually. What we do is we pick our Kelly Day prior to picking our vacation in November the year prior. So coming up this November, I would pick my Kelly Day for 2016. When I pick that day, that's my Kelly Day for the year. So basically you pick a day, that's your Kelly Day, and you have that day for the rest of that year. And then you don't pick it again until the next year. So and they're picked by seniority, and they're basically divided by how many people are in a shift. And I don't want to be at 21 on a shift, but that makes an easy comparison. If you have 21 guys assigned to a shift, you divide them by the days of the week. 21 divided by 7, there would be 3 off on Kelly Day. Currently we have 22, 23, so a couple days have 4 off on Kelly Day, the rest of the days have 3 off. But they're divided and picked evenly across the 7 days based on seniority over a year in advance. So, or the November prior to the year, not a year in advance, but the November prior to the upcoming year.
Thank you. Mr. Rath, did you have a question from earlier? No. Any other questions from the committee for Mr. McElfresh? All right, thank you, Mr. McElfresh. At this time, I'd like to... Mr. Marmon?
Yes. Mr. McElfresh, I guess, and I don't have access to the packet yet, but you say the 2 issues that I'm hearing you say that are the biggest issues are staffing levels and times because of medics and qualified medics getting to the scene at a particular time. The first one on the staffing levels, if part-time firefighters are a solution to increasing the staffing numbers to get to the level that you're talking about, why would you not be in support of that?
Well, the concept of hiring part-time firefighters, I believe, is a highly contentious issue between those that strive for smaller government and those that believe in the value of all workers earning a living wage, let alone those who put their life on the line for their community. We believe it offers minimal, if any, cost savings at the expense of decreased morale and diminished service to our current full-time firefighting force and the citizens we serve. Furthermore, in your packet, and we have notified the city of a current CERB ruling on the issue of part-timers, that it must be negotiated with the union. And to move forward on an issue without negotiating with the union would be an unfair labor practice. So we do not believe this is the venue to negotiate anything about part-timers. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but are any of our current firefighters in the Newark Fire Department, are they currently or have they ever been in the past part-time firefighters for other departments?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. So they're qualified to do the job, and most of the time, they're very well trained. Like the chief said, he would not hire anybody that was not adequately trained. Is that correct?
Are our members working somewhere else trained? Yes, I would assume they are.
Okay. And then, so let me go to the other portion as far as medics and the need for medics. If every firefighter was certified to be a medic, would that not improve staffing and also assist as far as making sure that we always have medics available, no matter who's on shift and who's not on shift?
I guess my answer to that would be like say everybody in the hospital had to be a doctor when there are needs for others, and we are still a fire department. It's actually an increased cost to the city requiring everybody to be a paramedic when not necessarily everybody does, but that is a good question that I would have moving forward is, the people we're going to hire. We're requiring our guys to be paramedics, so I assume anybody we hire, we would be required to be a paramedic.
Yeah, now there's legislation in place where they have to maintain their certificate.
That is correct.
Those that were hired in the past are not required. But if we had a higher number of qualified medics, would it not help improve the safety of the citizens?
My answer to that is I don't believe that is the case, but I would defer that to the fire chief if he believes that. I believe we don't have any problem. Actually, I could get those data to you from the National Fire Protection Association. When they talk about 4 people for ALS, and I'm going by memory, it recommends 2 firefighter basic EMTs and 2 firefighter paramedics. So when it talks about getting 4 on an ALS run, it specifically says only 2 of those have to be paramedics, 2 of those can be basics.
Very good. I appreciate that. I was not aware of that fact. Thank you.
I have one question for you, President McElfresh.
Yes, sir.
I like the PowerPoint. There's a lot of good information in there. But today, I want to bring a solution. What is your solution? I mean, there's facts. I need a solution.
And I've had this, as the chief's aware, we've had this discussion many times. And I think we hit on it a few times. We need more money. But my job is to represent our firefighters, to try to keep them safe, to try to keep them a good job that they can support their family. And it's not my job to figure out how to pay them or make sure we have enough of them to get here. I fight to try to get that, but I believe that is the city's job. And how they do that, I'm not sure. But I don't think cheapening our current job is the answer. I attribute that to if you can't send a job off to China, you bring cheap labor here. And I don't believe cheapening our labor is the answer. So whether it's increasing revenue some way, bringing businesses and jobs to this town that pay good wages so we can increase our tax base, I think those are all questions for the mayor, the administration, and this council. But I don't believe it's the firefighters' job to figure out how we get paid and staffed.
Are there any other members of council in the audience that would like to ask Mr. McElfresh a question? Mr. Cost?
Mr. McElfresh, when you refer to cheapening the labor, if a part-time firefighter is trained in the same way, has the same background, has the same education, in what way specifically are you seeing that as cheapening? I'm not sure I understand.
I don't want to get too far off of my statement because I do not want to negotiate part-timers. As I've said, I believe that's an unfair labor practice. I will talk of part-time labor in the workforce in general because I will not negotiate in this council or in public or in the media something that I believe is a negotiable item. But anytime you have someone doing the same job for less money, and I would put that forth to anyone, if you're the safety director, why don't we hire 3 part-timers to take your job and do it cheaper? If you're the president of a bank, if you work wherever, why don't we hire 3 part-timers and save some money? If that's the only thing you're looking at. But the fact of the matter is, from my standpoint, someone who believes in working people deserve to earn a living wage with benefits and health insurance. That is one of the issues. So I don't know if that answers your question. If not, I'll expand.
Thank you.
As long as I'm not getting into negotiating part-timers.
Thank you.
Mr. Rath?
I'd kind of like you to expand because I don't understand if our firefighters are working part-time somewhere else, which they are those other communities being cheapened because our firefighters are working there part-time? I really just don't get it, and I really wish you would expand. I don't understand that. I think
I will expand briefly as long as it's very clear that I'm not up here openly negotiating about part-timers. But what I will tell you is in the communities where the majority of them work, were predominantly volunteer departments, that they can't rely on volunteers anymore, so they bring on part-time help. They have slowly progressed from ringing the bell, waiting for the guy to get in his car at home and show up at the station, to let's hire a few paid guys, to let's bring on some maybe full-time, like some of the Granville, I believe Newton now has some full-time also. So actually the state trend is towards full-time. The majority, and I don't know, I don't have that data. I haven't looked at who of our members work where, but I would be lying if I said I knew they didn't work somewhere on their days off. Majority of them work somewhere at one of these community departments that was predominantly volunteer. It has grown up to have some paid staff. So that is a step forward for those departments.
Any other questions from members of this committee or members of council for Mr. McElfresh? Mr. Marmy.
In what you had just indicated, and a couple of things. First of all, you said that it's only fair that individuals who are working deserve wage and benefits. Why is it okay for 67% of the American public to not have wage and benefits, that only 33% of the citizens have some kind of benefit program out there that is offered to them at a low cost? And secondly, the state of Florida, their firefighters, there's a certain requirement that a percentage of them are part-time, and that's the only way in which they can gain full-time status is by being part-time. Is that a wrong model to have?
Again, I'm not going to sit here and continue to negotiate part-timers, but I will answer your first question. It is dead wrong. As someone who advocates for workers, it is dead wrong that people have to work in a part-time economy and can't support their families and pay their house payment and are being evicted all across the state and the city. So a living wage and be able to take off sick when they're pregnant or sick because they have a cold, I think is a human rights issue. It's not just a workers' right. It's not a union issue. It's a human rights issue.
I agree with that, and that you misunderstood my question. I mean, it is being provided, but at a cost is what it is. And so I stand correct on that. You are correct, and I agree with your comments on that. Back to the issue as far as the part-time men. Are there viable solutions to having a combination of part-time and full-time that are working within fire departments? Would you agree? Not to say that all of them are, but would you agree that it could be beneficial in some instances?
What I will continue to say is if the city wants to negotiate a part-time program, the bargaining table is the place to do that, and that's where that discussion will take place.
You know, if that's
my answer.
Okay, so you can't give an opinion.
No, I don't want to negotiate part-timers in a public forum before council. I've gave my opinion on part-timers overall. I don't want to get into specifics and start negotiating in a public forum.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair, it seems to me that from what I understood you say, Mr. McElfresh, is that smaller jurisdictions such as townships or villages have grown from volunteers to part-times but a city of our size is, and other cities our size are sticking to full-time, professional, career-driven firefighters. That's what I heard you say. Would that be fair?
That is a fair assessment.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any other questions or comments from other members of council?
I still have yet to hear any alternative solutions to this problem. The problem still exists that we don't have enough firefighters on the street and enough money to provide them. I know it's a lot of talk, a lot of facts, a lot of details. The fact of the matter is, as fire chief, I have to provide a service. So this needs to be decided upon, what you, the safety committee and council wants to do and what service you would like to provide to the city of Newark. It's an extremely important issue because these are people's lives at stake. This is not stocking the shelves at Kroger's today. These are dealing with people that are dying and houses that are burning down. So please make this a priority to help me find a solution. I've given one. I haven't heard a whole lot of other solutions tonight. So with that being said, I hope that all of you will take this very seriously, and I am open for any type of communications moving forward the next several weeks.
Thank you, Chief Connor.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rath.
Chief, just so we're clear, what is your solution?
Part-time firefighters.
Mr. McElfresh.
And I guess my answer to that question is my PowerPoint was fairly clear. We should have hired the budgeted for amount of full-time firefighters, and we wouldn't be in this situation.
Can I rebut? What happens if you have 11 people off and you spent all the available money on those 77? We drop staffing. So that's a temporary solution, but not a permanent solution to the problem. There's much discussion, let's just say.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments from members of council or this committee? Questions for Mr. McElfresh? Thank you for your presentation, Mr. McElfresh.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. At this time, I would like to invite members of the public up to make any comments they wish to do so. Please keep in mind this is not a question and answer session with the committee, but at this time, I would like to entertain anyone who would like to make a public comment. Mr. Frazier.
Good evening. Mark Frazier, 20 West North Street, Newark, Ohio.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Chief and Mr. McElfresh for their comments. The problem is simple. We don't have enough firefighters, and the solution seems to be presented. The solution is not providing more money for firefighters that we don't have. The solution is part-time firefighters. So we have the problem, we have the solution, and I hope that you guys will act on it. And I think it's as simple as that. And a lot of the things that I saw on the slide, very likely, possible, no real direct facts. And so give him all the credit that I can for the presentation and looking and researching. But the impact to the city doesn't seem to be clear cut. And I would like to see more of what these impacts really are on a day-to-day basis. The response time, 6 minutes and 20 seconds. I still think that that's outstanding for overtimed, overworked employees that we have in the city. And so the strain that we have on the firefighters required to do overtime, necessary to do overtime, this is alleviation for their needs and for their well-being, as well as the safety and security of our citizens. And so I don't see why we would postpone this. I don't see why there'd be a need to postpone it. So I hope you guys can have a decision, and I hope that you act in a timely fashion, because this is very important to our citizens. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. And we will be hearing a discussion on the part-time issue in Personnel Committee up next. I'd like to entertain any other members. Mr. Mangus.
Mike Mangus, 31 Riverdale Road here in Newark. I actually have a question for Mr. McElfresh if he feels he can answer it. We've been talking about part-time firefighters, and taking a look at the chart, I never understood exactly the hours that firefighters worked until Chief Connor and yourself spoke this evening. But with working 16 hours one day, 8 hours the next day, then having the following day off, would we want part-time firefighters serving our city who are working another firefighting job full-time and then coming into our city? Wouldn't you be so exhausted and tired that you wouldn't be providing us with a peak performance, do you think?
Mr. McElfresh, would you like to give a comment?
Again, I want to avoid debating part-time, but certainly working too many hours as a firefighter is an issue. That's why using overtime is an issue. That's why we prefer hiring, because overtime, you're working more hours. So certainly working any employee more hours as a possibility for mistakes. So that's the best I can answer that right now.
Yes, sir.
Any other members of the public like to make a comment? Mrs. Loomis. Just 1 second, sir. It'll be Mrs. Loomis, then you'll be up next.
Rhonda Loomis, 870 West Church Street. May I ask Chief Connor a question?
Mr. Connor, would you like to entertain a question?
Chief Connor.
Well, yeah.
I would like to know if you do know the number, based on Mr. Mangus's comment and Mr. McElfresh's answer of overworking, how many part-time jobs do our current full-time Newark firefighters have? How many Newark firefighters have a part-time job at another entity?
Rhonda, I don't have the actual numbers specifically with me tonight. There are a number of firefighters that do, as President McElfresh has also said. I don't have the specific numbers. It is safe to say that firefighters that are overworked, and there's sleep deprivation studies out there that show that tired people don't make good decisions. And by the way, our decisions are life-saving decisions. You definitely want to rest it for us. So that's something in the air industry, in the fire department industry, and across America, they do sleep deprivation studies. Our firefighting forces and paramedics are up during the night while all of you are sleeping. It's not occasionally, all the time. They're down the road taking care of people. So my concern is that I need more people to do the job, and that's why I've tried to have a solution to get more people to do the job.
And then, may I continue? Mr. McElfresh, you showed that in 2005, that was when the mandatory staffing said 19 firefighters were on duty. Do you remember the overtime dollars that were expended in 2005?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. McElfresh, would you like to answer?
No, not off the top of my head, ma'am. I can get that information for you.
That would be wonderful. And could we find out how many Newark firefighters work part-time somewhere else causing sleep deprivation?
I could find out the details for you. That's kind of a very broad response, but I'll get the information to you that who works. That information is available when I get there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Loomis. Sir?
Thank you. Robert Pfeiffer, resident of Newark, live on the south end. I used to be a firefighter.
Could you give us your address?
Oh, I'm sorry, 243 Water Street.
Thank you.
There's my council lady right there. She's my neighbor. Different party, but I voted for her. I used to be a firefighter, federal firefighter, and we worked 24 on, 24 off. And that would be my question. Why don't they do that?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Repeat your question for me, please.
I was a federal firefighter. I worked for the Navy in Hawaii. I wasn't in the military, but I was a federal GS employee. And we worked 24 on, 24 off. And then we did that for a rotation of 6 days, 24 on, 24 off, times, three shifts of that. And then we had a longer break, a 5-day break. Why can't they do that here?
Federal firefighters fall under different guidelines. That's the best way to answer that question without having more details. There are two different entities. In most cases, federal firefighters aren't as busy as
Right.
firefighters in the community.
Right.
That's
right. Yeah, that was true in Hawaii for sure.
Yes.
I was on Hawaiian time.
I don't know how to reiterate enough that our firefighters are extremely busy in the city of Newark.
But why couldn't that be negotiated with the union, wherever the union is, sir?
All those things are probably negotiable. So that's about, I'm going to have to say, but President McElfresh here, that's something that would probably be change of work conditions.
Yeah, it'd be pretty radical, but it can be done. Everything can be negotiated.
The work hours will match the work that you do.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Green.
David Green, 1791 Olympic Court in Newark. I'm glad to be here today. I want to say that part of the reason why I'm here today and alive is because of EMT and fire service that came to my house when I had heart attacks and cancer in different times. And I think I know Councilman Marmee said that he's very confident in the response of the firefighters. Well, I think the firefighters are great. I think they're very professional. As the chief said, they're professionally outstanding. And I agree with that. The service that I got in terms of helping me was, I don't think I could say enough about it. Very professional, very skilled, very human. And he also said, the fire chief also said that they're extremely busy. And from what I can tell, that's a serious understatement, meaning that they're busy more than they can almost respond to. So I think it's important to me to recognize the quality of the firefighting force, and I'm very much opposed to moving to part-time firefighters. I'm very much opposed to reducing staffing. And while some people are not worried at this moment, I'm a little bit worried. I'm worried about myself sometimes, but I'm even more worried about lots and lots of people, some who are here, who are sick, who are elderly, who have all kinds of health issues that come up. And the EMT service as part of the firefighters workforce is a vital thing for Newark. And I'm very much conscious that part-time employment in many, many areas is increasing of this country, in industry, in corporations, in lots of work. All the statistics say there's a tremendous increase in part-time, temporary, and low-wage jobs all over the country. I don't want to see that happen to vital social services. And so I'm very much opposed to that. About 2 years ago, I was part of a candidates event where candidates for city council were asked questions about a number of issues: environment, jobs, housing, transportation. And every candidate for city council said that they would support a full-time safety force, full-time fire force. What's happening today, I understand the economic crunch, but I think this needs to be dealt with in lots of different ways. And I think there are lots of people in the community who would participate in a discussion about what ways we could find money to guarantee the safety forces. Not just you all sitting up on the council chairs, and not just the administration of the city, but reaching into the communities to have discussions about ways of guaranteeing health and safety of our people. When I vote this fall, and I vote all the time, every election, I'm going to be voting for candidates who say that they are serious about safety protection for our citizens, for our people. And I'm going to vote against or not vote for every candidate who will support a part-time workforce, safety force, and who supports or at least accepts minimal staffing. And I'm encourage every single person that I know or have any contact with to think twice before voting on this issue. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Anyone else like to make a comment? Sir.
Thank you, sir. John Freese, City of Newark, 260 West Main Street, retired from the City Fire Department. I'm not a great mathematician. My check bounces never balances. But I was sitting back there, and this man right here, Chief Connor, spends 100% of the budget spent on EMS. Why is it he only gets 40% of that back? That's $800,000 plus or minus. I said that's close to 10 firefighters. There's your solution. Quit taking money from these earned and putting it somewhere else. And I got another question. How many of you on council committee have brothers, sisters, parents alive? How many of you? How many of them come and ask you for money once a week? That's what the City of Newark does every day, asking a loan from Heath, Newark Township, Madison, for mutual aid. That's what you're doing every day, is asking for a loan, because you're not spending the money to do the job right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to make a comment? Mr. Marmy.
Come forward. We need to be sure this is getting there.
Doug Marmy, 317 South Heather Drive, resident in the City of Newark. Knowing what I know about the finances of the City of Newark, I know that the highest percentage of funds, of taxpayer dollars going into any budget is for our safety forces, and it should never change. That should always be the case. We also have an additional 0.5% that was voted upon by the voters that go towards our safety forces. The percentage of funds that went into the general fund prior to that vote and that legislation passing has never decreased from what is happening today. The same percentage goes into our safety forces. So we didn't balance the budget on that 0.5% increase. And I commend the individuals that were around when that occurred and making sure that did not happen. I agree with a lot of the comments as far as our safety forces are some of the best around. We have exceptional individuals doing exceptional things on a daily basis. They are doing more with less. We are spending 93 cents of every dollar in our budget on personnel costs. That means we have less as far as certain types of training and equipment, and we need to make improvements upon that. I think that we are trying to get solutions to take care of that. I would agree with Mr. Green that anybody that has any kind of a solution or idea, that bring it to the table and bring it to the table quickly, because we are going to have an increase in expenses next year with no projected increase in income. I firmly agree with Mr. McElfresh in saying that it should not be our firefighters' job to find money and to determine how to run our fire department. That's what we have a chief and a safety director for. And it is their responsibility to come up with those solutions. And I think that they are looking for those solutions. They have presented those solutions, and we should listen to them. That is why we have the executive branch. That is why we are the judicial branch, to make sure that we have laws and we have things in place that will support the executive side of our system. We need to listen to them. I'm not saying that you need to be sold on it today, but let the chief do his research. If it's a viable solution, if there's some other solutions like Mr. Green has indicated that are out there that we can come up with, we need to listen to all of them and make sure that we do what is right for the safety of the citizens and the safety of our fire department, as far as our firefighters and our police officers. All of them need to be considered. Because I agree, we should not put any firefighter in harm's way because we are overworking them. I agree that we should do our best to make sure that our staffing levels are increased. I wish that we had a magic wand that we could increase income just like that. But we really have not had that solution. If we move the EMS dollars from what was legislated previously, then we're going to have a deficit in our general fund, a huge deficit in our general fund.
Where is that money going to come from? We've cut bare bones in our budget, and that money will have to come from somewhere. We just took money this evening from our what we call our rainy day fund, in which we've already taken over $300,000 worth in our budget prior to this evening. We also cut our capital improvements this year to balance our budget as far as street paving. Where are those dollars going to come from if you change those formulas? Is it the right formula? I don't know, but it's just going to be a shell game because there's only so much money. And we need to determine what we can do with the money that we have, or, as somebody indicated, try to come up with a solution to make more money. But it's easier said than done. Our mayor and the administration, and not only that, various citizens within this community are doing their best to stimulate economic development. That is a priority with this administration, and honest to goodness, they are making improvements. However, unfortunately, the economy doesn't support it, and businesses are moving elsewhere. There's less and less new business starts in the United States. Entrepreneurship is down for the first time in American history. People aren't starting up new businesses. They aren't going out there on their own. So it's difficult to stimulate economic development when those trends are occurring across the United States. So I agree we need to come up with solutions. I applaud the executive side of the branch that they are coming up with solutions, and we need to listen to any that are presented before this council. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marmon. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Sir.
Paul Moran, 63 North 4th Street. The problem here is financial. We got a great, fine fire department and the people on board. It's financial our problem here in the city. And over the years, the city has given away the parking garage, the health department, transit, and even the fire department dispatch office to save money. Now, we're not spending that money. Where's a lot of money gone to that was being saved from all those giveaways? And on top of that, we have city residents who dine and shop in Zanesville, Mount Vernon, and Lancaster because Newark does not offer the retail and food industry that appeal to people. It's just not here. Parking lots, and that seems to be a major thing here with the city over the years. They keep increasing every year. That's senseless. We can't make no revenue off that. But that's the problem. It's financial. It's nobody here. It's been bad decision making over the years. If we'd have kept the parking garage, they could have charged maybe $2 a car to park all day. We could make some money off that. But no, we give the county, health department, fire dispatch office, transit. It's all going to the county. Wednesdays there won't be no Newark. It'll be just Licking County. That's how it's shriveling up year by year. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Would anyone else like to make a comment at this time? Mrs. Green.
Janet Green, 1791 Olympic Court, Newark. I wasn't going to say anything, but I feel that this issue of part-time work is something I have a lot of experience with in higher education, and I just want to say to you to think very carefully about starting down that road, because in higher education in America, 70% of the faculty in our colleges are part-time workers, and they cannot afford to support their families without going from one place to another all day long. This is an itinerant workforce. It is important to recognize that although Newark is a wonderful place to live, and our firefighters are very dedicated, there is nothing that will keep them here if they can't make a living. I was just speaking with someone this afternoon who used to be a city manager in another town in northern Ohio, and he said part-time firefighters, as soon as we did it, they all left. They all left, and they went to other cities that paid more. So be careful. Value what you have, because it will not stay. If people can't feed their families, pay their rent or their mortgages, and see a future, they will not stay here.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Teresa Mitchell, 252 West Main Street. Most of y'all know my story. I can't see. I applaud the Newark Fire Department and their EMTs because I have dealt with them with my accident a couple of years back. And my thing is on part-time workers, who's going to say they're going to invest in our community? Because if you're part-time and a full-time position comes along, you're gone because you can't live on part-time wages. And that they won't invest in our community, that's the way I feel. And then when they leave, as the training and the equipment you have to buy, it's at our expense because they're gone. And you have to start all over again. And I have to go with Janet Green. They're not going to hang around. They're going to get their experience, and I call it a stepping stone to something better. They'll come here, okay, we stay part-time. Soon something come along, I'm gone. And we've wasted money on equipment and investing in them, and they didn't invest in us. That's all I have to say. I don't go along with part-time, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Any other comments from the committee? Well, at this time, as a member of this committee, I'd just like to share some of my thoughts. We've heard a lot of discussion and some presentation of information this evening. And just like everyone here tonight, I believe we should honor and respect the people who put their life on the line for others. And our firefighters do deserve a livable wage, and that's something I believe our city has provided. And I believe what this city has failed to provide are the staffing levels that this council has budgeted for. And I know some disagree, but if we had staffed the fire department with the amount we had budgeted for 6 months ago, then I don't think we would be in this situation when we have a few of our firefighters get injured. They aren't behind a desk, they run into burning buildings, injuries are going to happen, and as a city, we have to plan for that. And if we don't hire the amount of people that we need to do the job, the amount of people I believe that we had budgeted for, it is going to create an increase in overtime cost. Now, it's no surprise that as our staffing levels continue to fall, our overtime costs continue to climb. In 2013, for example, we had 76 firefighters, overtime was $170,000. In 2014, 78 firefighters were budgeted for, but the city only had 73. And overtime jumped to $235,000. In 2015, we have 77 firefighters budgeted for, at least 5 more than we currently have. And overtime's already surpassed $210,000. We're only halfway through the year. And our firefighters are dealing with more calls for service and lower staffing levels. We've lost many firefighters through attrition. That continues to happen. And regarding finding additional funding sources, I strongly supported the administration's efforts on applying for a SAFER grant this year. But doing research, and I've heard from a few of our firefighters that in 2013, a year this city, I believe, did not apply for any SAFER grant funding, the city of Hebron got over $650,000 for applying those grants. And according to what I've heard from some of our firefighters, Newark didn't apply, and I have some information on that grant right here. $20 million was set aside to hire military veterans with an extra year of funding for each veteran hired. So I just believe that if this city has been and continues to be committed to providing a well-staffed, full-time fire department, these are the opportunities we can't miss out on. So I'd like to thank everyone for sitting on the committee tonight. We will hear the
Chair, I have a question.
Mr. Safety Director, please.
Those are some pretty strong opinions you've got there. How many nights you spent in the firehouse? How many budgets you administered? How many fire departments have you administrated?
Mr. Spurgeon, with all due respect.
I'm asking you a question, Mr. Chair. You have just said the administration is not appropriately staffing. I've been here 4 years and I've never seen a chairperson give that kind of a political stump in his comments. We've come here in good faith, and so I'm asking you, validate your opinion, sir.
I understand my opinion is different from yours, and I respect every
I'm just asking you to validate them.
In this room.
What expertise do you have to offer those opinions?
I've been on this council and elected to represent the people for about 2 years
My question
now.
remains, sir. What expertise do you have to offer those opinions?
I shared information regarding climbing overtime costs, and Mr. Spurgeon, with all due respect, if we budget for 77 firefighters, I believe that should be the goal, and that's something as a city, that's what we should work toward.
So where do you get your number 77? You've heard our fire chief tonight. Are you saying he's inaccurate?
No, I said we have, I purposely said...
You've questioned the budget, you've questioned our chief, you've questioned administration. Please validate those opinions.
I purposely said we have 5 firefighters, at least 5 firefighters less than we budgeted for. That's what I said.
And please validate those numbers.
I've done a lot of time doing research. I've requested numbers from our city auditor. I've heard 78 is one, 77.
You've heard our fire chief, 2 decades of experience, tell you what the number was tonight. You're saying
76 is still 5 more than we budgeted for.
And you've heard his reasons why. Let me ask you one last question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
In your research, have you ever met with me and talked about this issue?
I've met with you and talked about numerous issues.
Has this been percolating? Have you once? I've emailed you repeatedly. Do you have questions or the things you'd like to understand? Have you reciprocated?
I've spent a good amount of time researching.
It's not my question, Mr. Chair. You know the answer.
In the past week or so, no, we've not communicated, but we've had numerous
6
discussions
weeks,
in your office.
6 months. We have?
Yeah, about many different issues.
Division of Fire.
It's out of order. Sit down and shut up and let's get this meeting underway.
Order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Order, please. I respect everyone's opinion. If there's no further comments.
I want to clarify one thing, Mr. Alette.
Yeah. And I believe Mrs. Reel raised her hand just before you. I'll let her give a comment and then, thank you, Chief.
And then let's take a break.
Anna Reel, 1293 Granville Road. First of all, just let me say that I had an opportunity to talk to our chief this evening. I think just in the few minutes that I spoke with him, we have a very great chief that is just really concerned about what is going on, and he cares about what's going on in Newark. He cares about his men that work for him and his women. So I just want to clarify that. I really appreciate the work that he's doing. However, I think I'm just kind of looking things on the business aspect of things. This is more complicated than I even realized coming into this meeting. And I have to commend Councilman Marmee for saying that this is not just a Newark problem, this is a national problem. We've got problems everywhere. But on a business aspect, overtime kills every business, whether it's public or private. That's where you need to try to avoid. So the question, I guess, would be, is if we're paying so much overtime, that overtime would pay for either 2 part-time people or 1 part-time people. So I'm just wondering if that could be something that, you keep in mind. But I do think that our chief is trying his best, and I think you all are. But this is just so bigger than what we can. When you don't have the money, it's hard. But overtime, let me tell you, when you can look at that overtime, and I can't remember what was it, 200,000 or something like that? If it's 200,000, would pay 1 or 2 salaries. So we need to look at that. The overtime is the money that you could use to kind of maybe help staff. But you also have to look at some other things. If you have a place, and I don't know all those, and I know a lot of things was negotiated with just, the contracts and everything. But if somebody's working 24, if you're working in a private sector and you are sick one day, you get to use your sick leave. However, if you are asked to work bring in another day because you're shorthanded, many times if you've not worked that 40 hours, in other words, you called off, you're a 40-hour employee, you called off one day, you only worked 32 hours, you're not eligible for overtime. I know times are tough nowadays. These are the things that we can look at. Where can you pull the monies? And I know that we have, contracts and things that you've got to look at, but can those be renegotiated? So that's just my thought. I'm sitting here and I know people are getting frustrated, but I think everyone is trying to do a good job. And if there's anything that you can come up with what I just said, maybe that would help a little bit. So thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief Connor?
I'll take the podium this time. I'll be very brief. I know this has dragged on long enough. I just want to make a comment real quickly. Mr. Roletta, I thought maybe you said we didn't apply for SAFER. We have 3 that we have applied for this year. We won't know anything until the end, probably the fall. Barbara Gilks and I and my staff worked very closely to get 3 full-timers, and just so everybody knows real quickly, that is a 2-year no matching monies grant for full-time firefighters. 3. So my fingers are crossed in a daily prayer that we can get 3 people this fall. We'll know probably then when it's going to be awarded by the federal government. We have applied for SAFER and moving forward with that grant money to try to get our staffing up. So that's
yes, sir. Yeah, and I strongly supported the administration's efforts to apply for SAFER grants this year. I was mentioning 2013.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sir.
My name is Bill Hammond. This is the first meeting I've ever been to.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but could you please give your address for the record?
Live on Valley Drive. This is very complicated, and it's hard to come up with any solutions here. It's pretty obvious, though, that if we had some money, we'd probably take care of this problem. So that's one thing that's obvious to me. The other thing that's kind of obvious was when you made a comment, young guy, come on to council, you've been respectful, as far as I'm concerned. And this guy gets up and become disrespectful. Got all the answers. But you know everything. How long you been around here? You've been here for, what, 25, 30 years? Maybe it's time you take a break. You don't have all the answers. I don't either. But I know how to be respectful.
Sir, I'd like to keep order here. I'd like to keep order here, please.
But I'd be respectful. I'd be respectful to you. Sir, I think you should owe him the same thing.
I'm sorry, sir. I missed your house number for the record.
64 Valley Drive.
64 Valley Drive. Okay. Okay. Seeing no other comments, I move to adjourn Safety Committee meeting. We will take a brief recess, and personnel will be next. Thank you all for your patience.
Okay, I'm going to call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Tonight, the members of the committee are Mr. Bub, Mr. Varmy, Mr. Roletta, Mr. Blake, sitting in for Mr. Guthrie, and myself. We have 4 things. 3 of them deal with the fire department, but we're going to start with something different. We're going to consider Ordinance 15-19, amending Chapter Section 220.02 of the codified ordinance of the City of Newark, Ohio, to establish a policy of fair hiring. Mr. Blake has brought this before us in the past and mentioned it, and he's going to introduce the people who will speak on that issue. Mr. Blake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess it's nice to take a little break from to get on a different topic, so I'm glad we're able to provide that. So, this ordinance of fair hiring is important in the regards of many of you may know it more commonly as ban the box. This has been an effort that has been going on for quite some time within our state. Recently, the state of Ohio has, through executive action, has removed that box from their applications, and there have been other local jurisdictions throughout our state that have also done this. And so this is to add into the momentum that has been occurring throughout the state, and I'm hoping that the City of Newark can be a part of that momentum that's changing. Within our own community here in Licking County, Denison University is supportive of this effort. Licking Memorial Hospital is supportive of this effort, and so some major employers within our community have been supportive. Denison hosted an event in March regarding this topic, and then just a few weeks ago at Licking Memorial Hospital we had an event where Director Buzzkirk, our Human Resources Director, attended, and it was a very good event. But a big partner of this has been a citizens activist group called the North Think Tank on Poverty, which representatives of them are here tonight to give testimony as to how this will be a benefit to our community as a whole and to be supportive. And so, I just urge support of this ordinance, and then we'll allow people to come up and speak. I see Director Rhodes is at the podium, so I didn't know if you want to provide a few comments.
I do. As Jeremy and I have had many discussions on different issues and personnel issues, and Carol and I have too. I'd just like to say the city does support this initiative. We support what you're trying to bring forward here, Jeremy, and we think it's appropriate.
Thank you so much, Director. Director Buzzkirk, did you want to provide any comments?
I just basically say the same thing David did. However, the state of Ohio has also adopted this.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Blake, if I may.
Yes.
I think one of the things that's important about this legislation is that it makes having a criminal background just a factor. It's not the determinative factor. It's just a factor in hiring, which I think it's important to keep in mind. And as you said, Mr. Blake, lots of other jurisdictions have also adopted legislation of this kind.
Thank you very much. And I think that working with Director Sasson and the Law Director's Office and with Director Buzzkirk, it's been a very cooperative effort, and even Director Sasson has used the term or coined the term, not necessarily banning the box, but delaying the box. And so it's, I think that's a very appropriate term regarding this. So at this time, I just like to see members of the North Think Tank on Poverty to come forward if they like and share the comments that they like to share with the community.
Would you please give your name and address for the record?
My name is Wendy Tarr. I'm not a resident of Newark, but I'm here in the capacity of an employee of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the Columbus Diocese. We are a sponsor of the New York Think Tank on Poverty, and we have a council here, a number of councils here in the area that are supporting the organization. St. Vincent de Paul, as many of you may know, we have over 3,000 Vincentians and 62 conferences. We're a Catholic lay organization that's well known for humanitarian assistance and emergency assistance for people in poverty, and have spent a lot of time with people here in the community trying to understand the challenges and barriers that they face as we've been meeting needs. And of course, one of the greatest needs that people have is finding and securing a job, a good living wage job, a job that they can provide for their families. And so with that intention, we have worked with the New York Think Tank on Poverty to support these efforts and to work around these issues of fair hiring. And my comments are just real brief, but I just want to say that, from a religious perspective, with St. Vincent de Paul being a part of this, we actually have had been working at the state level on these issues. Our president of St. Vincent de Paul for the council, diocesan council, has testified in the House committees on these issues. And one of the things that I think was very valuable of his testimony there was he draw attention to the fact that, you know, in our religious traditions, we see that two of the greatest figures of our faith, in our tradition, Moses and King David, were both people who had criminal records, if you will. Moses murdered an Egyptian in a fit of rage and fled. King David was an adulterer and an accessory to murder. And these are two people that God used to do good work and to move forward. They're part of our faith. So we really believe that, in following Christ, that we're supposed to treat others as we want to be treated, to care for others the way we would want to see them, how we would want to be treated. So it is in that vein and in that light that we're here tonight. And thank you for your time to listen to the comments of the members of our group.
Hello, my name is Leisha Farias, 116 Smithview, Madison Township. I'm co-founder and facilitator of the Newark Think Tank on Poverty, which is a community organization that is consisting mostly of individuals that are experiencing the issues of poverty and are now working to learn about how we can change those. And this is a very important issue for us. As Jeremy said, we had an event 2 weeks ago at Licking Memorial Hospital, sponsored by Licking Memorial Hospital, to talk about fair hiring and ban the box. And at that event, we had 4 local employers sign our fair hiring pledge, which says, and this is appealing now to the private sector. We're appealing to you as public sector tonight, but we are also starting to work to appeal to the private sector because people need these jobs. As employers of Licking County, we will evaluate and consider implementing the following as part of our hiring practices. Remove questions regarding previous criminal convictions from the application form, review all applications for open positions, and allow those candidates who appear to be qualified to do the work to participate in the interview process. 3, during the interview process, discuss with candidates whether they have any previous criminal convictions and allow candidates the opportunity to explain their path back to the mainstream. 4, determine whether the specific previous conviction presents a barrier to employment in the position. And 5, if the conviction is a barrier, consider where there are other openings that might be appropriate. And at that time, we had Denison University sign, Aclache, Licking Memorial Hospital, and Sally Heckman of First Federal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Greetings, City Council. My address is 224 West Locust.
What's your name?
I use my name as 373882. My prison number is my name because I can't have a city job right now. I'm still serving my second sentence. Once I was released, how do we begin to look at the disenfranchised as equal to as a city councilman or a judge or a city worker or a fireman, etc.? So to all my 2.9 Ohioans with something on their records, I apologize for not taking a stand on legislation a long time ago. Forgive me. It's an honor to be able to advocate on the importance of having a fair hiring policy here in Licking County. What does a fair hiring policy achieve once passed locally? One achievement is that it will be able to conform to the needs of giving an equal chance or a fair chance at obtaining a city job if qualified. Also means City Council was able to see that discrimination could take place and this fair hiring policy could modify some of the challenges. Since 1972, under Nixon campaign, the war on drugs began. We need to promote getting aggressive on criminals was the message. Not necessarily. Actually, a second punishment or a sentence was being introduced by the way of sanctions and restrictions. Once released from jail, prison, or probation, etc., faced with the stigma of being classified as a felon, lawbreaker, etc., promotes not being trustworthy in the eyes of the community and places a mark on a guy like myself applying for a city job. If this is accepted, it would give hope, inspiration, and pride on one having a chance to become a long-term taxpaying citizen, working locally and obtaining a position that has not been offered since 1972. Also, it would go hand in hand with House Bill 56 statewide efforts. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Again, your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Donald Lee, 20 South Fulton Avenue, right here in Newark, Ohio, apartment 3. Lifelong resident of Newark. I've come back to our community 40 years ago with a felony. I've carried that felony and a couple more with me as I've gone over these last 4 decades. Has always been my issue, so I consider it a real privilege to be standing here speaking on my issue. Our time has come. This population that's been so marginalized over the years that no one really knew or cared much about us. But times are changing. It's obvious that hearts and minds are changing, and there's a lot of good people that support this cause because they know there's a lot of good people that have made mistakes in the past that now deserve a second chance. I represent Newark Think Tank on Poverty, the Reentry Committee. I am on a daily basis. I am in touch with individuals coming back to this community. You may not know, but there's a steady stream of gals and guys coming back from prison to this community. You wouldn't know who they are, but they're husbands, wives, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, coming back to this community, just looking for the opportunity to work and put food on the table. We believe in the living wage. I know far too well what it's like to be disqualified for the good job, for the living wage job, and have to settle for the low wage job and to raise kids and to make ends meet. I just heard a big discussion about what it takes to run this city financially. I can tell you it takes more than $7, $8, $9, $10 an hour to run a family financially. So I would just like to put a face to the people that every day is coming back to this community. You may not know them. I tell you, Scott Fulton, the Adult Probation Department, they know them. They know a lot of these individuals come back with skills that will actually be an asset to this community. I've just heard a lot of discussion about what it's going to take to get the money that this city needs to put our services in place, in order. And if you want to use this population to help expand the tax base, this would be a good way to start. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of the amount of people in Ohio now that are coming back to communities just like this that's been convicted of felonies, but the number is getting really large. There are a lot of good people coming back to this community that needs a second chance, and I would just like to, if you aren't aware and you don't understand the gravity of this situation, to research it. The numbers are stark. Every year coming back to Licking County, and right now this year coming back to Licking County, I've heard one number thrown out that before the year is out, 148 individuals will be released back to this community. They need jobs. I'll say this and I'll sit down. We identified a number of issues that will keep a person in poverty, especially a person that's been convicted of a felony, and the jobs were right up there as the number one issue that will keep an individual coming out of that prison on probation or parole, will keep them down. So I just ask that you continue to keep your heart and your mind open to this issue and support our city fair hiring policy. Thank you.
You have a question?
Just a question.
Yeah, excuse me, he has a question?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. You were already standing.
Good evening. My name is Tina Cole. I live at 743 McKinley Avenue here in Newark, Ohio. I'm formerly known as inmate Kraus, number 7300. I spent 6 years incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Tonight you've heard and you will hear from the Newark think tank on poverty, the challenges that men and women face after coming out of prison. The only number I have for you that is if a inmate returning, a restored citizen returns and doesn't have a job within the first 30 days, they have a 90% chance of recidivism. 90% in the first 30 days. That's huge. But I want to give you a kind of a different light on returning citizens, restored citizens, people that changed their lives. I don't know how many of you have visited an Ohio prison, but good things happen in prison. There's a stigma attached to returning citizens that once an inmate, once a convicted felon, always a convicted felon. Once a drug dealer, always a drug dealer. I've been told that to my face. I am not a drug dealer. What happens in prison is inmates, ex-cons, convicted felons run the prison. Sure, there's state employees, there's correction officers, we have a warden, we have an administrative staff. But the inmates make and serve 9,000 meals a day in the women's prison. The inmates clean the dorms. The inmates are teachers and tutors. The inmates are reclaimers. They pick up all the trash all over the compound, recycle it, and take it where it needs to go. They do all the lawn care, they plant all the flowers, they do everything. So what this is telling us is, we don't have to do this when we're in prison. If we want to lay around and watch soaps all day and eat ramen noodles, you can absolutely do that. But a lot of us don't. A lot of us get up at 6 a.m., have our beds and areas ready at 7 a.m., and are at our job by 7:30 a.m. And we work a 40-hour week for $18 to $22 a month. That's our state pay. But we get up and we do it every day because we want to change our lives. We don't want to be the same person that we used to be. We don't want that stigma attached to us that I'm going to get out and I'm going to start selling drugs again. You know what I did when I got out 8 months ago? I got 2 jobs. I worked 70 hours a week. I divorced my drug-dealing, abusive husband. I got full custody of my kids back. I rented a house. I bought 2 vehicles. And I'm about to be a grandmother. And I did it all with the stigma of being a drug dealer. There are people, men and women, returning to these communities that want to change. There are men and women coming back into these communities that want jobs, that want to be more than productive citizens of our community. Registered voters, I might add. But they're human beings. We're human beings that made mistakes, that want more than, we don't want the second chance. We want to be a part. We want to be a part. Sure, not everybody gets out and has the same way of thinking that I do, but a lot of people do. So taking this box off of this application is giving us the chance to sit in front of an employer, tell our own story, not the story that society has already put upon us, to tell our own story, to show who we've become, to show what we can do, so we can be a human being. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, Madam Chair, I think this is a worthy cause, and I would entertain a motion, but I would yield to Mr. Blake since he brought this forward, if he would like to.
I think we only have a few more speakers, so we're almost done.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll just take a moment.
Again, say your name and address, please.
My name is Bill Hammond, 64 Valley Drive. This what we're talking about is a common sense. I mean, it's so hard for anyone to get a job today. We all know that, how competitive it is. And any time that someone wants to have this job, and the question is, you ever been convicted of a felon? You your chances of a job is probably you're not going to get a job. That's common sense. So I think, people have been in prison, served their time. They say, I believe, that we'll be judged by the way we judge others. And so I think it's a matter of forgiveness. It's a matter of common sense. It's time to take that off the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, Daniel.
Daniel Crawford, 163 South 2nd Street. I come today, in solidarity with the Newark Think Tank on Poverty. I'm not really an official member. And although nor anyone in my family really have a record, I can somewhat empathize with what's afflicting these members of our community. I spent 2 years of my life as a temp going from one assignment to the next, and I know how difficult that made it for me to find another job. An employer would look at my application and see all these other jobs in there and think to themselves, why can't he keep a job down, without considering it was a temp assignment, each one of these slots that I was filling out. And I just think to myself, how much more difficult it would have been for me to even get a job if I had to check that box there, saying that I had a felony or some kind of conviction. And, listening to, I believe her name's Jill's story about what happens in a prison, the work they do, not only do I think that someone's prior convictions, their history in prison shouldn't prevent them from being able to get a job, I also think they should be able to use their work history in prison, to help advance their possibility to get a job. The things that they performed when behind bars. This is valuable work experience. So, with that, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Billy Bibo, and I live at 60 Riley Street. I grew up in a home where my father was convicted of numerous felonies, and I watched him struggle every single day to provide food on the table for me. He lost numerous jobs and had to work at the very lowest grade of respect. I soon followed in my father's footsteps, receiving my first felony at the age of 16. Became a single mother at the age of 18 and had to find a way to provide for my child. I would go up 79 and 21st Street filling out applications, turning them in, stopping in at places that I had already turned in applications to check in to see if I could get an interview. No response. I would call numerous times a day. No response. I found myself left to work under the table, spinning signs on 79 and 30th Street for $5 an hour, working 8-hour days in 90-degree weather, just to put meal on my table for my son. Working in 15-degree weather, doing mechanic jobs, just to put food on my table. So I know the struggle from one side of the fence to the other. If we remove this box, we can restore hope in everybody and give everybody a chance get their side heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Blake?
I think, are you, Alicia, are you the last speaker? Okay.
Amanda, 14th, 11th Street, 014322. I know that in the last 3 years, I've been in and out, and in the last 3 years, I have put over 26 applications in. Each one has been as lowest as picking up trash in apartment areas. I've even went to as trying to clean up dog messes around town to keep. I was a house cleaner. I was a home health aide. And as it has went on by and time has went on by, I had been put on SSI. And now all I'm trying to do is for that box is so I'm able to go and at least work 20 some hours. With being on disability, that is hard. And, marking that box and then them looking at my disabilities, which isn't like I'm capable of doing anything. I get looked on, I get downgraded. I've lived on the streets. I've lived out of dumpsters to eat meals. I have not had a steady home in 11 years. And just to have that box marked, would give us, who has went and done wrongs, but we've paid our prices. I remember the wake ups at 5 o'clock in the morning in jail and scrubbing floors and the stalls and everything, and it's painful. I've learned a lot. I've graduated from PARS, which is not in this town. I got 3 certificates for that, and I'm taking baby steps to get to where I need to go, but we're all trying. We all just want to be heard and let us have a chance. We're all humans. We've all made mistakes, and I just feel, we deserve that fair chance to be able to go out to make a living. I want to be able to go out and live in a home and not live from place to place worrying where I'm going to lay my head by next night. And thank you for listening to me.
Amanda, what's your last name?
Bukta.
How do you spell that?
It's Buckta.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes, I'll be brief. My name is Alan Schwartz. I don't live in Newark, but I work in Newark. I teach at CTEC, and I want to speak for my students. We spend thousands of dollars to get my students their GED so they can go out and get jobs. But a good portion of my students are returning citizens who work real hard to get their GED and then they can't get a job because of this discrimination. So I'm going to urge you to, with a dollars and cents argument, right? If we're going to spend all this money to get my students GEDs, let's remove this barrier to them getting jobs, and let's provide an example, just like the state provided us an example. Let's provide an example to private employers to consider doing something as simple as giving people the chance to have an interview before they make their decision. That's really what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Anybody have any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll enter a motion to adopt this ordinance. I think we've heard, first of all, I want to say, what courage each of you have, because sharing your personal stories in a public forum like this, you don't know many of the people in this room, but for you to share your story is going to help break that stigma that many people have about returning citizens. And so there's stigma related to people that have been incarcerated. There's stigma related to people that have mental health issues, related to substance abuse, addictions. So I just want to first say thank you for the courage you had to come in this public forum on this contentious night to provide that testimony. So each of you that spoke, thank you very much. And to continue to tell this story so that private employers can follow our lead as we join the other different employers in our community to ban this box and to move forward. So I want to thank you, and Madam Chair, I do enter the motion to adopt this, or to move it on to full council.
And Brian, are you seconding?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions? We've heard a lot of wonderful testimony, I think.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
I would just like to say that I was happy to attend a meeting at the Licking Memorial Hospital put on by the think tank and discuss this issue. And a lot of the stories we heard from people going through this were very inspiring, and I just want to thank Jeremy for bringing this to the table and applaud the think tank for all their work. And I believe if we don't give people a second chance, that's not only bad for them and their families, but bad for our community as a whole. So I applaud what you're doing and look forward to passing this legislation.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to City Council. Thank you very much. Okay, the second issue for us tonight is to discuss ordinance 15-20, amending the position authorization tables of the City of Newark Division of Fire by reducing the position of captain by 1 through attrition, resulting in a strength authorization of 7. Chief Connor, I assume you're going to address this?
Yes, I am, if that's okay.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. Over the period of time and the way our business as the fire department has run, we've got specific needs as far as a management style. And over time, we have created a captain's position, which I believe right now is not necessary to have. So in an effort to be as most efficient as I can in every way, and I believe that's what we've been doing, I'll continue that. I believe that I can reorganize our structure and eliminate one captain's position, reallocate that person, and through attrition. I want to make sure that it's through attrition. No one's being harmed right now. We don't have any openings currently for someone to be promoted in. So by eliminating one captain's position, I can reallocate the job responsibilities to other captains that remain on shift right now and help get the staffing on the street. Currently, just in order to get where we are today with this, the 40-hour captain's position, which is our training captain, I moved to back on the truck on a shift. So I have a body on duty to try to eliminate the overtime expenditures. I believe that the job that this position requires, all of the responsibilities can be done on shift, on an every third day routine. And the reason why I speak as such is I did the job. I supervised the job, and I supervised the supervisor that did the job. So I have an intimate attachment with this, and I kind of know what the workload is. And in an effort to be efficient, I think it's best to get organizational structure to start looking more like one. We have eight captains right now and 6 lieutenants. 1 chief, 4 assistant chiefs, 8 captains, 6 lieutenants, and then firefighters. Kind of try to get that back to an organizational structure that looks more professional and to span of control and those types of things more in line with what we do every day. So that's the recommendation.
Okay.
Any questions?
Are there any questions from the committee up here? Mr. Mapp? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you can let whoever go first.
I was going to ask Mr. McInfresh if you wanted to comment on it.
I will, but go ahead and let the committee go in order.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. I was just wondering, Chief, this captain does a lot of the same duties that a firefighter does, correct? Responds to house fires, issues of that nature, correct?
Well, yes. That is part of all of our firefighters and staff, whether you're administrative or everyday person, should be ready to go to fight fire or make an EMS call at someone's need at a moment's notice.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anybody else who would like to comment? Or ask any questions? Okay, come on, Chris.
I guess we can back. Thanks, Chief. Dave McInfresh, 153 North 39th Street, Newark, Ohio. President IFF Local 109. I won't go on and on like I did on the last issue, but simply to say, the chief had a discussion about this. I saw it on the agenda. I asked for a meeting with the city, and the chief and the safety director was obliged and met with us to discuss this issue. And quite frankly, my comments to them were we would be more than willing to sit down and work on something that makes our department more efficient and gets us more people on the street. I'd been here to witness the conversation about the police when they did away with theirs, and I had the same concern. We're eliminating a captain, and the word sometimes even from this council is because we have too many chiefs and not enough indents, but there's no assurance that we're going to get any indents. And my question is, we eliminate a captain, is that savings going to then hire a firefighter? Is it going to hire 2? The chief may know the answer to the exact cost of what that captain would be. As he stated, there's no immediate savings, so there's actually no need to rush into this because there's no immediate savings. We certainly are still welcome to talk about it to get more firefighters. But basically what came out of that is why this union stands in opposition is because there is no promise, there's no legislation that would say we'll eliminate this captain and in turn hire more firefighters. So we stand in opposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of the committee up here?
Mrs. Floyd?
Yes.
May I ask Safety Director Spurgeon a question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, so with the understanding that this captain, is responding to calls, doing a lot of the things a firefighter does, I think it would be appropriate if we would hire a firefighter at the bottom if we cut at the top. Is that something you'd be willing to make a commitment to do?
I can't make a commitment, Mr. Roletta, because I don't know next year's budget. I don't know when this captain will leave through attrition. All I've said is publicly is I'm an old HR chief. I want to hire people.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other questions from up here?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I will, and I appreciate the fire chief, the safety director coming to us in good faith on this, and I go back to their institutional knowledge, and Chief Connor's done it. It says we can do it, so I will support moving this on to the full councils.
You're making a motion?
I will make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Marley. I just want to say first, this issue was before us earlier, and it was before us at a time when somebody had retired, and we did not vote on it at that point because there was a grievance and there was an issue involved, and I said at that time that if it came back when there was not a vacancy, that I would support it, so I will support this. So, is there any other discussion? Mr. Blake?
Madam Chair, I just want to say that, I agree. I think that in this situation, your comments are correct. I mean, we're looking at a situation when someone is finally going to retire or through attrition, and so I guess that's the reason why I'll be supporting it as well. I mean, I do agree with the comment that, I do believe that we should have more Indians and not chiefs, but so that's part of the philosophy where I think we should have more firefighters. So I would hope that we can consider all monies, whatever, to hire more firefighters. So I agree with that sentiment, but even though we don't have a guarantee tonight, I still want to support this tonight to relieve one captain. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Okay. On to the third item. Ordinance 15-21, amending the position authorization tables of the City of Newark Division of Fire by creating the position of part-time firefighter EMS.
Thank you. Okay. I've also supervised the Prevention Bureau. As you know, you may have heard the safest fire is one you prevent. Right now our prevention staff consists of one person. What does that mean? That means that I think Newark has about 1,700 or 1,800 businesses, probably 1,100 actual buildings that we have to inspect. One person. I took one of the other prevention people and I put them on shift in order for the staffing, to keep staffing and overtime low. I keep one prevention person on 40 hours full-time.
Chief Connor?
Yes.
We're talking about the part-time firefighter EMS, not the safety inspector.
Oh.
Is that? I'm sorry, that's what 1521 is.
I'm sorry. Well, I can talk about that too.
Okay.
I think we talked about that for about an hour and a half. So.
But that's the way the legislation
I'm
is.
sorry. You should have cut me off. I was walking up here while you were talking. That's okay. Let's move forward with what you want to talk about.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know exactly what we can say that hasn't been said right here specifically. I think everybody in this room, I'm not looking at anybody that wasn't present during the conversation in regards to when we were talking in the other committee meeting. The fact of the matter is, and I'll sum it up real quickly because I know it's late and everybody's got other things to do, but the fact of the matter is, as fire chief, I've got to put people on the street. And that just goes right back to what I was talking here too with prevention, which I can get to in a minute. But the fact of the matter is, everybody would like to have a complete full-time fire department. We don't have money to do that. As chief, I cannot just sit in my chair and not do anything about that. I have to come up with solutions to these problems, and sometimes they're difficult to hear for some people. But change has to happen. We've clearly got a financial situation in the city of Newark that we've not had quite before, and there's nowhere to go for a pot of gold to fix this problem this time. So change is difficult. Culture is difficult in the fire service, and anywhere for that matter. There has to be someone stand up and say the things that need to be said, and that's me right now. I need to make a change that's different for the Newark Fire Department in order to survive the financial situation that we have. Is it perfect? No. But it is a solution to this problem. It is a potential solution to this problem. I vow to do the very best I can to try to make this successful. Unless there's another, and I love some of the comments in the crowd about if there's all kinds of different ideas out there to generate money for the city, let's hear them, because I'm not hearing a whole lot of them right now. My ears are wide open when I hear somebody wants to talk to me about how to generate revenue and fix our problem. But by the way, my phone's not ringing off the hook and nobody's beating at the door currently. So it is my responsibility to find that solution for you. And this is what I'm doing. I think we discussed the details, kind of. We're not discussing details about the part-timer. It is what I'm bringing to you is, do you support the idea of my staff looking into part-time firefighters and a potential plan to come back to you with? If you support that, I will come back with a plan, and then you can look at it. That's what we're talking. That's what I want tonight. What is it that you want me to look into? If it's something you see is viable, I will do that for you.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Yeah.
Chairman, just for clarification, Chief and Safety Director can speak to it, just for everybody in the crowd, anybody else on council, this would allow you to come back with a plan. This does not talk about funding at this time, just so everybody's clear on that.
That is correct. That is how I understand. We'll just come back with a plan. The funding is a separate issue that we'll talk about once a plan would be looked at, and all of you could see what it would look like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Floyd, may I ask a question of our chief?
Sure.
Chief Connor, I know you have to draw up the plan and everything first, but would you be willing to share any ballpark details, like how much roughly would an annual salary be for a part-time firefighter, anything like?
I don't want to get into the weeds per se of what we're talking about here, but I mean the general part-time firefighter in this region probably makes between $10 and $15 an hour. So somewhere in that range, we're going to take a look and see what that means. And of course, we're limited on hours worked by a part-timer. So it's a plan that will put together that will have a dollar figure associated with that and give you all a very good idea of what we're talking about and what kind of service that provides to the city of Newark and if it benefits us at all or not. But it's something that we can look into and provide you the information. I think information, Ms. Floyd, you like information, I can provide that to you.
I do. Okay.
Ms. Floyd, just one more question. So you would like us to authorize 20 potentially? 20.
We're going to talk about the number. There's a number of 20 there. Financially, I don't know if the city can afford 20. It's a big number. We'll have to look at that specific number. The number 20 is on there, yes. But the fact of the matter is that this could be a plan that takes place over time, and to get to that number potentially. And of course, there's union opposition to this and all the legalities between that. But this is me moving forward with a plan and to see how you receive that. So we'll have to take a look, and I'll develop that, Mr. Arella. I'll develop that, and you'll see what it can do for us.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Doug?
Yes, I just would make just a few comments on this evening, and I know it's a tough issue for a lot of people, but first, again, I want to thank you, Chief, along with the Safety Director for coming in here tonight in good faith and bringing forth a solution. It's refreshing in today's age in government, especially local government. It's a few years past due, so I certainly appreciate that. And again, and it's a tough issue on both sides, Republican, Democrat, but you can't hide from the facts that we have a staffing issue and we have a funding issue. And if we don't do something about it, it's not going to get better. So, again, I want to thank you, and I hope this passes on tonight and we bring this to the council floor so everyone can vote on it, because we have a problem. It's not going to get any better. And we're going to face, additional pay raises next year. With the vacation, I get it, and it's It's a tough issue, but again, I really commend you for bringing forth the solution, along with the safety director. You guys have done a nice job. You've laid it out. So I think we take, everybody on council has took an oath in office to make a good pledge to the citizens for financial responsibility. So I think it's a must we pass this on. With that being said, I'll offer a motion to pass this on to full council.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Bug.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Marmee.
Mrs. Floyd?
Yes.
May I ask a question of our safety director?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Director. So I know the plan has to be drawn out and everything. I'm sure you guys will be talking a lot about this issue, but you think 20 is roughly what you would be looking at, what your ultimate goal would hope to be to hire 20 part-time firefighters? Or is the number 20 here for any specific reason, or is that just...
That's a very good question, and Chief Connors said it well. This will be labor-intensive to go do this, to find the research on it. While we can talk about the number, one thing that I hope is part of the discussion is we're not going to propose a standing, I don't want to say army, but a group of folks that we're going to pay if they don't come to work. This will merely be as needed. If we don't need them, we won't spend a dime on them. So I can't really tell you a number. Is it 20? I don't know. I'm counting on our chief to do the research. Should you folks support that?
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought went into the 20 number, if that had any significance. I know, yet to be planned, right? Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to say I sat here all evening, and actually this is the first evening we've had a public discussion about this. And I know that there have been phone conversations and other conversations outside of the public forum, but this tonight is the first public meeting we've had to discuss this. So the comments of saying, well, what's the solution? What's the solution? Well, I think this is the beginning. I mean, this is the beginning of a discussion. We've heard, people asking for how we're going to solve this, but I really appreciate that we're finally having a public, transparent discussion about our fire and our safety forces, which is occurring tonight. Part-time is a possible solution. I've heard other solutions of hiring the budget amount. I've heard other solution of asking the citizenry for additional revenue. And so saying that the part-time issue is the only issue that has been brought forward as a solution, I don't think it's necessarily correct. I think there have been other solutions brought forward. But I've also heard that there needs to be some time to discuss things. There's been some current concerns about, is this supposed to be a negotiated item? Is this something that obviously the citizens of 50,000 people, do they have other opinions about how we can work together to solve this issue? And so tonight, I just don't feel as though I have the information to really make a decision on this. I really don't. I mean, it's just something that I know the chief is going to be emailing us information. I know other people, after reading the news media coverage of this issue, is going to have comments and things. So I really don't feel comfortable voting on any part-time issue tonight, and I'm just going to openly say that. And so saying that, Madam Chair, I'm going to offer a motion to table this to August 10th.
I'll second that.
The motion to table is not, we don't discuss it. All those in favor of tabling this issue to August 10th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I can't spell any of this. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I didn't get the opportunity to comment, so I'm going to comment if you would give me the opportunity to comment on this.
Caroline, can you comment?
After the motion's been
After the
tabled,
motion.
yeah, there's no more discussion.
Yeah. I think we can discuss it in comments at committee or at regular council next time. But I think...
Well, then I guess I'm sorry that you didn't give everybody the opportunity to comment. I thought that committees you could comment on anything.
Not once there's been a motion to table.
But we commented on numerous things earlier in an earlier committee, and there was no
Before.
motion.
This is after the motion to
There
table.
was no motion at all.
There just was a motion.
No, what I'm saying is if she wants somebody, allow somebody to comment on any subject at any time, she can. It's a committee.
But not about this issue any longer because it's been tabled.
Where is that in the rules and Robert's rules?
It says in there that once the motion to table has been offered, it's not debatable any longer.
I'm not debating the issue, I'm just,
You're offering comments about something that's been tabled.
Okay, we are on to ordinance
I wish
15.
for that to be in writing.
15-22, amending the position authorization tables of the City of Newark Division of Fire by creating the position of part-time life safety inspector. Now you can explain that one.
This is the one.
Yes, this is the one now.
I think I got this right this time. I was paying attention.
That's all right.
All right. I apologize
It's
for
been a
that.
long night.
Yes, it has.
I know.
Apologize for the mix-up. Here we go. As I explained before, the City of Newark has about 1,800 businesses, 1,100 actual buildings. We have one prevention officer currently working to try to inspect them. Last year we inspected about 480 of those 1,100 businesses. That's just not good service to me. However, as I'm prioritizing the fire department and its needs, I put one of the prevention officers back on shift to try to eliminate overtime. That's not ideal. Newark can use probably 3 prevention officers. However, a part-time prevention officer, I'll give you an idea how many hours. It's about 3,530 hours. We did some math a year in prevention needs in the city. It's about 68 hours a week is what we in needs, and that's on a good day. That's without really taking the daily spot fires. I'm trying to get our buildings inspected. We have many school buildings in town with young kids in them. It's very important to me that their buildings are inspected, ready to go. We have a lot of the downtown renovation going on, working very closely with prevention. I could go on and on with the prevention needs and the everyday spot fire phone call that calls, we need an immediate prevention officer here. I have one person right now. Some cities our size have 5 full-time prevention officers, and they're busy. Things don't get inspected, and that's the way it is. I need some relief. Right now, I've offered the position to the people, the bargaining unit members that work with us 3 times with no one take. I bid it, and I have no takers 3 times. So I'm out of options as far as putting somebody in that. I could force somebody into that position. But that is a very specific job that takes specific skills and a desire to do that job to do it right. I could hire a part-time person that worked 30 hours a week and create that position and have them in just inspecting. They wouldn't be responsible to take EMS and fire calls. They're going to be in your buildings taking care of you and the residents of Newark, making sure your buildings are within code. So I was hoping to get some relief to my full-time inspector and have somebody else working 30 hours with them to try to alleviate some of the burden and maybe take care of some of the spot fires along the day as well that come on with our daily inspection needs. And they are lengthy, to say the least. Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Marmee.
get an opportunity in here since no one's allowed to make general comments. I guess I just would urge everybody to support the chief and going forward with the opportunity to try to determine change and see if it is viable. The longer we wait on any of these types of issues, the higher the impact as far as on the budget and the budget planning process for the upcoming year. I've said all along that when things change, there's only so much money, and we're either going to have to do more with less, or we're going to have to come up with creative solutions. I indicated that when things change, we're going to probably have less firefighters. It is not my desire, not my wish. I wish we had all full-time firefighters and we had individuals who would would accept this type of a position. But in light of what is happening, I would hope that we would support the fact that we need help, the chief needs help, and these decisions have to be made more rapidly than what government usually does, because time is money and it costs us, and we need to make sure that these things are occurring not haphazardly. I mean, we need to do our research just like we do everything else. We have usually 4 weeks in order to do that whenever anything comes forward. It isn't like there's an emergency on these issues, and delaying these types of things or trying to suspend them or slow them down just creates more of a hardship for the city and for the chief, for him to effectively manage his department. So I would hope that we would move forward with this rapidly.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would echo those comments and entertain a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Do they have, yes.
I have a question.
Mr. Costa has a question.
Not on personnel.
I know you're not.
Chief? Yes, sir. That lost you. The full-time position, do you have am I correct, you have one full-time inspector now?
I do.
And can I assume that is a 40-hour week? Is that it's not the typical shift?
Correct. It is a 40-hour administrative position. They report to work. Although a lot of our 40-hour staff in the fire department, as you may know, work kind of different hours because, but 40-hour prevention staff generally are somewhere between 7 and 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. It depends on the needs of the community, but yes, it is a 40-hour administrative position.
And so the position that you're looking for, you're looking, to understand, 30 out? Somewhere in the...
Yeah, we're kind of restricted by the Health Care Act now to how many hours a part-timer can work before you have to offer them benefits, sometimes south of 30 hours a week. You cannot employ somebody over 30 hours a week where you have to increase the cost and pay them benefits to work. So we're trying to, their workload is specifically going to be designed to be an inspector to help out our full-time inspector. So, yes, I guess the answer is.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other questions up here, comments?
Mrs. Floyd?
Yes.
I appreciate Chief bringing solutions forward that you're working on. However, just like this other issue, I do believe it deserves more discussion, and I also have read a CERB ruling that has to do with the issue of going from full-time to part-times in a division of fire not being in the bargaining process. So I think, I'd love to talk about this issue more, and I'd love to look into that ruling and see if that's accurate and affects what we're doing here tonight. So I'm going to make a motion to table.
To?
August 10th.
Second.
Okay. Motion to table to August 10th. Motion by Mr. Maletta. Second by Mr. Blake. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to table passes 3-2. I just want to say, as the meeting ends, we have gotten so much information tonight, and we have a lot more to get. I just feel sort of inundated by all this information, and I've been talking to people and thinking about this for 2 weeks. I at least sent you a bunch of questions, right? And I still need a lot more information before...
Point of order.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I wasn't allowed to discuss and debate any further, why is it that you can?
Okay, I'll quit. Thank you. All right, we are adjourned, and services next.
Bring the Service Committee meeting to order. Members present are Mr. Blake, Mr. Rath, Mr. Roletta, Mr. Bubb, and myself. The discussion is of ordinance number 15-18, approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances, and a resolution as parts of the various components of the component codes of the codified ordinances all night, providing for the adoption of new matter in the updated and revised codified ordinances, repealing ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug Sasson can answer any particulars about this that you might have. This is a housekeeping issue, and if you have any questions about the particular things in there in between the time when you guys would vote, I would encourage you to reach out to Doug and talk to him.
Motion. Second.
Quick question. Are you sure you don't need this table, August 10th?
I'm positive.
Be good. Okay. All right. Want to make sure. All right.
So, the motion is made by Mr. Rometta and second by Mr. Rath. Comedy by Mr. Brown. Are there any questions out of the committee concerning this? Any questions out of what's left of the audience? As Shirley Stair used to say on a lighter note. Yeah.
Bill, don't take offense, the audience left.
I don't, at all. I figured it was you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Any other questions whatsoever? All in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you. That's the end of Service Committee. Thank you.
Let's keep going. Aren't you next?
Oh, you're
I'm sorry. My bad.
No, it's okay if I can make it.
It's getting late.
Fun runner, huh? All right, we'll call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Blake, Hall, and Johnson. We have one issue on the agenda tonight. Resolution number 15-62, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to enter into an attached agreement for infrastructure. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, where is
Curtis is supposed to be on this committee.
Curtis, come on up here. I just called you present, so come on up. Sorry. I knew he was here. I saw him out in the hallway. I just assumed he made his way up here, I guess. You are.
Get extra credit.
All right. Resolution 15-62, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to enter into the attached agreement for infrastructure construction and cost reimbursements with the Board of Directors of the Park 70 Etna 2 Joint Economic Development Zone and Prologis, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, this is the same agreement that we have with the JEDZ 1. JEDZ 2 is on the south side of Route 40. They've cleared ground. They're ready to start construction, and this agreement will allow Safety Director into contract and allow us to disperse funds to reimburse them for cost of development.
Okay. I have one question for our Assistant Law Director. Since you're here, you might as well do something. Why would and what constitutes an emergency clause on this, and why would we not just waive the 2-day reading rule if we needed this done in a timely manner?
And I would defer to Mark on that.
Who's going to defer to our Law Director, Mr. Sasson?
Actually, I'll be glad to try to respond because I had the same question for our Law Director, Mr. Sasson. And his response was, this is a non-financial issue, and in a non-financial issue, it will not allow the 30-day waiting period to be excused.
Correct.
While it is a matter of finances, reimbursement of costs, we're not talking dollars and cents at this time. So we did look at that as an option. I guess the fact of the matter is, conversations with Law Director Sasson and the attorney for Prologis, who constructed this agreement. Prologis is in a state of urgency where they want to get construction going, and this is the only avenue that we would then have to waive the 2-day reading rule and to expedite immediately upon signature.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from anybody on the committee?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Hall.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
The Economic Development Committee is now adjourned. Up next will be capital improvements. Last but not least.
We call the Capital Improvement Committee to order, please. President is Mr. Rath, Mr. Roletta, Mr. Klaas, myself, and Mr. Johnson. We have a resolution, number 1563, appropriating monies for the current expenses of a municipal corporation. We have two sections. First section is hereby appropriation of unappropriated balance of the 335 Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $1,400 welder for Parks Cemetery.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our welder in the Parks and Cemetery has officially died. I need a new welder. It's an item that we use an awful lot, whether it be equipment, fencing, you name it, we weld it. And I need to replace it, and so I'm requesting $1,400 to do so.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Roletta. And second by Mr. Rath. Move to vote to move to full council. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Okay, Section 2, there's hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 335 Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $20,000 in your fire department purchase of 4 used vehicles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things I know the mayor has asked the fire chief to do is look at cost-saving avenues, whether it be in equipment, personnel, or things. The chief and I and his officers that work with me on replacing the equipment have identified that through their relationships and friendships they have in Norwich. Norwich has offered to sell us 4 Ford Explorers. The mileage on these range from 75,000 to 100,000. They'll be replacing our current fire prevention vehicles, which really should have been scrapped years ago. The $20,000 does allow me to restripe, repaint, fix any rust, and I gave you all a picture, shows that there's a little rust on these. But we feel as though these are an appropriate car to do and transport the personnel for these jobs, and we can get 4 of them again for $20,000. And really, we're getting that because of the relationship the chief has with Norwich. These are undervalued for what they're being sold for, and we're getting again 4 replacement vehicles for $20,000. And that gives me enough money to stripe them, fix the rust, and our guys would be appreciative if you'd support that.
Motion. Second.
Who did the motion? I'm sorry.
It was a tag team.
These two?
Your choice. Just put your choice. Flip a coin.
Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience?
I just want to say it sounds like a wonderful deal.
It is.
It is a good deal. $5,000 for.
What year are they, dude? 2005s.
And where are they coming from?
Norwich.
Okay.
That really came to us through the fire chief and friendship he has there with Norwich Township.
Move to send full council. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee is adjourned. Thank you.